Chapter 688, Ancient Desolate Area, Border Sea. Chapter 688, Ancient Desolate Area, Border Sea. The location Bao Ao had shown him was in the far east of the divine Great Land, a place called the Ancient Desolate Area. In antiquity time, the Grace mainland had an area called the Ancient Desolate Area, the transition area between the great clans, where different clans gathered and exchanged goods. As Shi Yan had reached the true God realm, he had a deeper knowledge of space. Eventually, he got to know that there were some smaller spaces around the Grace mainland. They were like some small rooms surrounding a big room. In antiquity time, those small spaces were the territories of different clans that they had exploited. During that old time, the 10 clans had thrived. As their experts with tremendous supernatural powers weren't contented with the small area of the Grace mainland, they had found themselves new worlds. Those areas contained thick spiritual qi and precious materials. They had used different methods to find many smaller spaces around the Grace mainland, where their clan could stay and exploit. Soon, they found out those spaces were filled with spiritual qi and rich soil, which was suitable for their clan to live. Then, the alien tribes moved to those smaller spaces, cultivating and searching for precious products of nature. They had divided and claimed their own territories. As time flew, many clans stayed in the small spaces. Some clans that were defeated in big wars in the Grace mainland also moved their whole clan out of the continent. Actually, the 7-layered underworld, the 4 demon areas, the chasm battlefield, the secret domain in the Cold Wind Island, and the ice and fire secret domain in the perpetual night forest were all the small spaces outside the Grace mainland. After tens of thousands of years, they had developed to the current appearance. Those spaces were connected with each other and the Grace mainland, and some gateways were sealed for some reasons. After so many years, many of the small spaces had run out of spiritual qi. Some spaces were sealed, becoming the survival regions of alien tribes. They would never connect with the Grace mainland again. The Ancient Desolate Area was the place connecting territories of alien tribes. Above the Ancient Desolate Area was the Border Sea, where many heaven gates kept floating and bobbing, leading to numerous small spaces. Since space power in the Border Sea above the Ancient Desolate Area was chaotically abundant, it was the most suitable place to build heaven gateways. That's why the clans had decided to build the gateways there to connect to the smaller spaces. Gradually, the Ancient Desolate Area had become a special existence. However, no one knew what had happened to the Border Sea in the modern time that all heaven gateways had been closed. Due to the chaotic space energy in the area, people didn't dare to take risks and explore the place. In the modern day, there were no experts who specialized in building heaven gateways. Thus, the Ancient Desolate Area had become an abandoned place. Previously, the 7 ancient factions had sent their hotshots to guard the area and the Border Sea above, as they were afraid something would happen to the Border Sea. During the recent 10,000 years, everything was normal there. Gradually, the 7 ancient factions had loosened their guard. They withdrew the hotshots and didn't pay much attention to the area. It was until the time Shi Yan comprehended the space power, which led to the Great Space Fission, and the Border Sea changed abnormally. Many sealed heaven gateways opened under the effect of the space power. Bao Ao and Jiaji had come back to this continent from the 2nd demon area through the heaven gateway here. Shi Yan had gathered space power, using his soul consciousness to direct the way. Half a day later, he had crossed through layers of space, just like walking through the doors to get to the Ancient Desolate Area. As soon as he had arrived there, he saw the wonder of the antiquity time, the Border Sea. It was a barren place with a garnet ground and no foliage. Shi Yan saw many ruins of palaces and buildings, with many traces of ancient formations. At first glance, the Ancient Desolate Area looked like an imposing ruin of a big city. The sky above the Ancient Desolate Area had many cracks, like long cuts, across the sky. Those cuts contained billions of light spots, with fierce space power that could crush everything. That was the Border Sea. Shi Yan faced up the sky and recognized that the Border Sea was made of countless spacelets. Each space slit led to a small space, which were the secret domains Yunhao had mentioned. The journey to the secret domains Yunhao and the 7 ancient factions had mentioned was the trip to the border sea above the ancient desolate area. The 7 ancient factions had some secret techniques that could open 1 or 2 secret domains here. These places still had spiritual qi and some interesting places to explore. Today, when Shuryen observed so many cracks in the sky, he understood that the 7 ancient factions didn't need to open any secret domain anymore. Most of the gateways to the secret domains were inside the space cracks. However, it would be tough to explore those areas. Bao Ao and Jiaji had shown him this area. However, Shuryen's soul consciousness couldn't sense anything. Standing in the barren, quiet, ancient, desolate area, Shuryen mused for a while, releasing flows of invisible lightning-like soul consciousness to the space slits in the border sea above his head. Behind each space slit was a small space above the Grace mainland. During the antiquity time, those spaces were the territories of the strong tribes. But after tens of thousands of years, the spiritual qi there had scattered completely. Now, only death qi filled the place. When a normal warrior sent his soul consciousness to the space slit, not only couldn't he get anything, but also couldn't retrieve it back, which would affect his soul. Shuryen was different, as his soul consciousness carried the mysteries of space Upanishad. It could glide through spacelets without being hindered. Normal space energy fluctuation couldn't affect him, giving him room to explore the place. More than 300 flows of soul consciousness sneaked through the space slits. Flows of death and desolate aura came back to his god soul, making him understand the basic situation of those spaces. There was no living fluctuation, spiritual qi, or treasures that carried energy. In those small spaces, it seemed that silence dominated the entire area, which caused him a fierce soul impact. Actually, the antiquity time didn't have only the 10 races. The God Clan, the Dark Clan, the Demon Clan, and the Monster Clan were just the 10 strongest clans. Besides them, there were almost 100 minor and bizarre races. However, they were weak and their competence was unclear. Those small clans had opened space cracks and moved their whole clans there. However, after so many years, those spaces were tranquil, as if the clans staying inside were all dead. Shuryen was frightened. Looking at the border sea above his head with so many space cracks, Shuryen didn't give up. He gathered and condensed his soul consciousness, sending it to survey more space slits. There were several thousand space slits inside the border sea. Even his soul consciousness's intensity couldn't search them all shortly. He had to carry it out step by step. The 300 flows of soul consciousness hadn't reported any energy fluctuations of living beings to him. Everything was quiet and desolate, which distressed him a little bit. He understood that one of those space cracks was the entrance to the second demon area where Bao Ao and Jiaji had come from. However, finding a door among a countless number of doors wasn't an easy task. He vaguely thought it wasn't good. If nothing unexpected happened, Bao Ao and Jiaji would send some experienced warriors of the demon tribe to support him. But he saw no one now. What had happened? Then, he observed the surroundings of the ancient desolate area and found some streaks of recent battles. A thought popped up in his head. The 5 great alien tribes had fought here. Bao Ao and Jiaji were here. Were they defeated? Did they retreat into the second demon area? Bao Ao and Jiaji's force could be considered the strongest among the 5 clans. Normally, the other 4 clans wouldn't dare to fight face to face the demon clan. Something unexpected had happened. Shuryen slammed his eyebrows together. He had a good impression of Bao Ao and Jiaji. They had helped him. Moreover, he seemed to have the demon bloodline in his body. Naturally, Shuryen would favor the demon clan more. If the demon clan failed, his career in the perpetual night would be affected. He might be swept away by the other 4 clans shortly. He suddenly felt tense. Shuryen immediately gathered his soul consciousness and sensed the remaining space splits. A long while later, his eyes brightened. He shuddered and then retrieved the flows of soul consciousness he had released. Got it! A significant beam of demon qi appeared clearly inside a space slit. After he extended his soul consciousness to tens of thousands of miles inside the space crack, he felt the energy fluctuation of living beings for the first time. That was a member of the Ghostmark clan. He had a good grasp of the soul Upanishad of the Ghostmark clan. His soul consciousness just needed to rake through the place, and he could confirm that was a member of the Ghostmark clan due to his special physique. Yen was certain about it. There was demon chi and adequate conditions for living beings, which confirmed that the demon clan was in there. However, seeing the Ghostmark clan's member there, Yen assumed that the demon clan had encountered big trouble and were forced to get back to their homeland. Thoughts crossed his head continually. Yen pondered, following the soul consciousness's direction towards that space slit. This space split was quite peaceful and large. Perhaps Bao Ao and Jiaji had renovated this place before. The chaotic, unpredictable space energy waves were restrained by the strange demon techniques, so this place wasn't as dangerous as Yen had thought. After he reached the true God realm, his understanding of the space power had increased by one more level. However, the more he knew, the better he understood the dangers of space slits. Although he understood space power, entering the perilous space slits could always take his life away. Many terrible space cracks contain the evilest creatures in the world, along with the most intimidating natural formations. Many space cracks were exactly like giant slaughtering machines, which could destroy every creature, including the god souls. The chaotic space basin was one of the most hazardous places. The furious, disordered flows of space in there could destroy the god soul, or smash the king god realm's warriors into pulp. This was why he didn't dare to enter the other entrance of the ice and fire secret domain, which had the chaotic space basin. Although he was worried about Xia Xin Yen, for the future of the entire family and the human clan, he chose not to take risks. This showed how tremendously dangerous the place was. Swoosh! Like a gust of wind, he glided through the space slit. Immediately, he felt the light in his eyes had vanished as he stepped in a dark, gloomy world. The second demon area. Chapter 689. The second demon area. Chapter 689. The second demon area. Just like many other secret domains, there were no sun, moon, stars, or spiritual chi of heaven and earth in this area. Yen only saw the thick clusters of demonic clouds on the horizon. The air in the demon area was cold and dry. Strong gusts rolled and slaughtered everywhere like small sharp blades. There was nothing like spring or sunlight here. Unlike the Grace mainland, which didn't have night and darkness anymore, this place was dark and gloomy, which would affect visitors' vision, as they couldn't see anything further than 10 meters. The ground was ink black, as if it were dyed with a thick layer of ink, giving people a heavy pressure. Yen floated in the air, looking afar. He saw many large holes on the ink-black ground. They were like the 9 Serenity's abyss, that they couldn't see their bottom, or the giant mouth of a demonic beast, hiding many mysterious dangers. Some holes were larger than 1,000 miles in diameter, such that people couldn't see any beam of light or even their own fingers there. The darkness that filled the place was terrifying, like a black hole in space that could swallow everything, making people startle in fright. The dark ground had some foliage. However, all of them looked ferocious, with sharp blades on their leaves and branches. Each tree was at least 100 meters high, rooted deep in the earth like a giant monster. Under the cold gust, branches with sharp blades slowly rattled, reflecting the dark, cold beams of light. Many demonic beasts were moving in the immense forest. Usually, demonic beasts were savage. They would never stay idle. They had to compete all the time, fighting and killing the other beasts to survive. The world of beasts here had only killing competitions. Only high-level existences could gain intelligence and mighty powers to trigger the power that always hid in their souls. The ground here was ink-black, and the forest was perilously immense. Many demolished palaces were seen in the abyss. Sometimes, Yen could see pieces of Demogorgon giant statues under so many layers of dust. If he didn't observe carefully, he would never see them. This was the second demon area, a relatively large space outside the Grace mainland, which had demon chi, and hence was pretty suitable for the demon clan to stay in and cultivate. Early in the antiquity time, this land had been exploited, becoming the home of many small tribes of the demon clan. Long time ago, this land had many treasures, including some rare stones and metals that couldn't be found in the Grace mainland. Those were really good for forging powerful secret treasures. The demon clan was once incomparably strong. During the antiquity time, they had claimed all the rich spaces. The first, the second, the third, and the fourth demon areas in those times were the place people had to gawk at and envy. Due to the mighty power of this clan, they had 4 areas to nurture their people, making them stronger quickly. Shuryen hovered under the ink-black demon clouds, releasing his soul consciousness to sense and search for energy fluctuations of living beings. Not long after his soul consciousness had crossed 30,000 miles, a living being's energy flow shot back to his sea of consciousness, running directly to his god soul. Shuryen frowned, but he didn't hesitate. He urged his power to gather the mysteries of space power. Space ripples appeared in front of him, each ripple carrying his soul consciousness. Under his feet, the land seemed to move backward, just like a big curtain being pulled away. All forests and abysses disappeared instantly. He was crossing space using the magical power of space, which accelerated him tremendously. The land didn't move. What was moving were his body, spirit, mind, and soul. Dead bodies of the Demon Clan, the Ghostmark Clan, the Dark Spirit Clan, the Corpse Clan, and the Dark Clan scattered under his feet while he was crossing through space. Shuryen didn't linger to investigate. At the moment, he knew that a war had happened here, so he would obviously see many corpses scattered everywhere in this demon area. Although the Ghostmark Clan, the Dark Spirit Clan, the Corpse Clan, and the Dark Clan had joined hands, they would never get the absolute advantage in this land. This was the Demon Clan's territory, the homeland which they were familiar with the most, having the thick demon chi. In this area, even if they were weaker, it wouldn't be easy to chew them. Shuryen's soul consciousness had locked that soul energy fluctuation. Under the effect of his space power, Shuryen's soul consciousness could make a passage with the energy resonance. After 1 hour, he could reach his target. That was a massive abyss covering the area of 1,000 miles squared. Dark demon chi was rolling together with howls and roars of beasts. Bodies were piled around the abyss. Most of them were Demon Clan's clansmen and their mounts. The others were the corpses of the Dark Clan and the Ghostmark Clan. Their blood was dried, becoming a dark red layer that was sticking on the dark ground. The bloody scent was still very thick, rising from the abyss. The fight down there hadn't ended yet. Shuryen frowned, looking into the dark abyss, where he couldn't see his own fingers. He decided to sneak in. He owed Bao Ao and Jiaji a favor. The ones attacking the Demon Clan today should be the experts of the other 4 clans. Although Shuryen had reached the true god realm, he wasn't so sure. This time, he could get hurt like the other members of the Demon Clan, or he would have to bury his body in this demon area. Yet, he plunged down anyway. Along his way, demon chi burst out torrentially. Cold gusts slaughtered through the demon chi, bringing the thick, pungent scent of blood. Gradually, Shuryen could see the vague light down there. It seemed some special intent domains were expanding, creating the strange magnetic fields. Boom boom. Waves of ear-splitting explosion reverberated from underground. Big chunks of dark stone scattered, being flung everywhere, bringing with them tremendous energy. Swoosh! 100-meters-long beast was thrown away, rocketing into the air and almost hitting Shuryen. That beast had a sharp horn on the head, and dark green scales covered its entire body. However, it had so many bleeding wounds that Shuryen could even see the bones under its flesh. Its life was sliding away. Apparently, he couldn't help it. Shuryen frowned. This beast was a level 7 one, equal to a human warrior in the sky realm. It seemed to be struck to death with only 1 strike. The attacker should be a spirit realm expert. Roar! Shuryen roared like a flying dragon. His cry reverberated everywhere. He dashed quickly, crossing 100 miles in just a blink and falling into the pitch-black abyss. This immense abyss had many transparent crystals inlaid on the walls. They weren't black, but were radiating like 5-colored precious gems, illuminating the bottom of the abyss. Around 1,000 warriors of the Demon Clan were roaring and crying on their beasts. Members of the Dark Clan and Ghostmark Clan were chasing after them, getting them involved in battles. Lights shot up from everywhere, together with lightning strikes. Dark treasures and demon treasures impacted, sparking dazzlingly. 3 Yama Kings and the 2 experts of the Ghostmark Clan were surrounding 2 clansmen of the Demon Clan. They were struggling, but their faces were still savage. Their mounts were dying. The 2 demons cried furiously, as if they wanted to risk their lives altogether. They were Bo Rua and Gu Desi. Shi Yan knew them. They were the members of the ancient Bao family, Bao Ao's subordinates. Bo Rua and Gu Desi were furious. Under the attacks of the 3 Yama Kings and the 2 hotshots of the Ghostmark Clan, they were still bravely resisting. One of the Ghostmark Clan's men had the aura and the soul fluctuation of Cassidy. Bo Rua and Gu Sida had fallen into the disadvantaged situation. They had so many wounds on their body, and their armors had countless tiny cracks. Star false. Shi Yan showed himself. He floated and shouted, not caring if the others would notice him. Starlight blazed gloriously, condensing into diamonds in between his hands. They were revolving, falling from his hands like the Milky Way descending from the sky. Flows of eternal star intent domain diffused from each star as they were arraying into a strange star formation. They moved as fast as meteors, making beautiful curves in the air before descending. The stars hit members of the Dark Clan and Ghostmark Clan, burning them with star flames. Starlight twirled around their bodies as they were dying. Crack! Shi Yan shouted, pointing towards the place where the 3 Yama Kings were standing. A space crack appeared, shooting billions of space light beams. The 3 Yama Kings acted as if they had met ghosts. They were frightened, moving instantly with grimaced faces. A terrifying suction force was released from that space crack. If they weren't quick enough, once they got pulled into that space, they would have to die for sure. The space crack was perilous. Furthermore, they couldn't locate it as it could tear space and appear anywhere. It was the deadliest place to be in. Once a creature got into that space, without spiritual chi or energy, its consciousness would shatter, which was more terrible than death. You brat again! A member of the Ghostmark Clan smiled sickly. He had a young appearance, but his aura was senile, which was pretty similar to Cassidy. It's you! Bo Rua and Gu Desi of the Demon Clan also screamed, wearing an astounded complexion. Bo Rua still wore male costumes. She was extraordinarily handsome. However, due to the battle, her bun was loosened. Her black hair cascaded like a soft black stream, lingering on her round rear end. She had a small horn on her head, which was the holder of her bun. It was revealed now. It was the distinctive feature of the Horned Dragon Clan. Gu Desi belonged to the Black Scale Clan. His black scales on his body had grown directly from his skin. He was holding the 2-bladed axe, which had blood on it. This weapon had an earth-shaking murderous aura, as it had drunk a lot of blood apparently. You are... Cassidy? You have a body again? Shi Yan slightly changed his visage, as he was assessing the young man of the Ghostmark Clan. He sensed, then shouted in fear. When they were in the perpetual night forest, he had destroyed Cassidy's body, making his god's soul run away. After just 1 year, Cassidy had returned with a stronger aura. True. Haha. It's me. Cassidy beamed a gloomy smile. You ambushed me when my power hadn't restored yet. It's my fortune that our patriarch has supernatural powers. He has helped me build a new body and restore my power. If my patriarch didn't want to attack the Demon Clan first, we would have killed you in the forest already. I will skin you alive. Haha. It's good that you have brought yourself here. Too good. The Ghostmark Clan still had a patriarch? An existence which was even more dangerous than Kamaro's. Shi Yan discolored in fright. Chapter 690. Een Spirit Ghost Flame. Chapter 690. Een Spirit Ghost Flame. Shi Yan hovered in the abyss deep underground. His face was as still as water, while his mind was seething. Shiryen felt his heart sink into a dark pit. If the Ghostmark clan had a patriarch that was more powerful than Komaro's, it would be a big catastrophe pouring on human clan. This clan had a deep grudge against humanity. They had made killing the entire human clan their goal. Anyway, with their mighty force, human clan would be eradicated soon. According to Cassidy, the top priority of his patriarch wasn't the human clan, as he had laid his eyes on the demon clan. Otherwise, Shiryen would have had no time or chance to break through to the true god realm. While he had so many thoughts in his head, Cassidy attacked him. Soul drawing. Cassidy sneered. His 10 fingers wiggled, releasing an energy that could tear the soul. 10 flows of strange soul fluctuation that naked eyes couldn't see coiled around Shiryen like tenacious ropes, tightening gradually. Cassidy had eaten the bitter fruit once. He knew that once soul energy entered Shiryen's sea of consciousness, something strange would happen. This time, he was more careful, as he didn't send his 10 flows of soul energy into Shiryen's sea of consciousness, but turned them into invisible ropes and wound around Shiryen's body. A furious pulling force appeared from the 10 soul ropes. It seemed that it could coil Shiryen's newly formed god soul, dragging it from the altar. Shiryen discolored drastically. The god soul was the root of a warrior, which stored the life seal and the seals of Upanishad. Once it was dragged out of his body, it meant his life had come to an end. Cassidy's power Upanishad had aimed at the god soul. He wanted to forcefully drag Shiryen's god soul out of his body. Once the god soul was pulled out, he couldn't perform many of his martial techniques. At that moment, he would become a fish that he could cut as he pleased. Of course, Shiryen wouldn't stay idle. Burn! A thought crossed Shiryen's mind. He shouted, and a white jade flame sparked from his eyes. In the beginning, it was small. Shortly, it had turned into a seething fire sea covering his entire body. Flows of white jade flames twirled around him like water. Cassidy's 10 soul ropes were covered, sizzling in an immense gray mist. They were all burned down. 9 Serenity's soul devouring flame. Heaven flame. Cassidy discolored in fright. Eventually, he understood why he had to face the bitter results so many times. He paled immediately. The Ghostmark clan was good at using Soul Upanishad. Their supernatural abilities had a close relationship with soul. That was also why they had become one of the most powerful, evilest clans. Many human beings, despite their higher realms, had only a tragic ending under their terrifying soul attacks. However, it was no doubt the soul-class defensive treasures were the things the Ghostmark clan was afraid of the most. And the heaven flame that could burn all kind of soul energies was no doubt their nemesis. Thus, seeing the white jade flame covering Shiryen, Cassidy felt as if someone had punched him in the face. He felt so bitter. His 10 soul ropes were burned completely. Cassidy's god soul got hurt the second time. He hurried to back off as his face distorted terribly. The 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame seemed to have an unclear grudge against the Ghostmark clan. After it appeared, the flame hesitated for a while before dashing towards Cassidy, as if it had to burn the man into ashes. Cassidy hastened to run away, urging the mysterious power to resist the flame. Other Ghostmark clan's members around them scattered in fear, trying to find the way to hide from the flame. However, the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame burned their souls. The Ghostmark clan wasn't good at using the other power Upanishads. If they were another clan, although the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame had locked them, they could use the other techniques or energies to counter. However, the power this clan was cultivating was related closely with souls. All the barriers, formations, and defense they had released depended on soul energy. When they met the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame, their archenemy, they could only be termed as unlucky, as their barriers and restrictions would be burned as soon as the flame touched them. Gradually, they had no defensive power left. The 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame seemed to have a big grudge against the Ghostmark clan. After it had flown away from Shiryen's altar, it kept chasing after the Ghostmark clan's members, burning their souls. As it had burned the souls of dozens of the Ghostmark clan's clansmen, it was still gazing at Cassidy. Another expert of the Ghostmark clan was struggling to resist the flame. However, he could do nothing but run away as fast as possible. Nine Serenity's soul-devouring flame was one of the heaven flames, and it was also the nemesis of this race. They had no way to resist its force. At this moment, they couldn't do anything else but leave. They needed to avoid this disaster first, only then they could have time to think of the countermeasures. Shiryen gawked, dropping his jaws. Only at this moment did he finally understand the Nine Serenity's soul-devouring flame's intimidation. Where the white jade flame swept over, all the soul fluctuations were washed away. Members of the Ghostmark clan had no way to withstand it. Soon, members of the Ghostmark clan quickly left the abyss, leaving several hundred bodies while running for their lives. A flow of white jade white flame took one circle and then returned to Shiryen. Like a jade flower, it exposed the eccentric beauty of danger in this abyss. Bo Rua, Gu Desi, and the hotshots of the demon clan couldn't say anything. Their eyes brightened as they exhaled in relief. It was strange that the three Yama King didn't leave or try to support the Ghostmark clan. I have a grudge against this race. The Nine Serenity's soul-devouring flame sent its thought to Shiryen when it came back. People of this race had sealed me. They couldn't kill me, so they decided to confine me. Shiryen suddenly recognized it. It was true. When he was in the place of the Dark Devil clan in the Chasm battlefield, he got the Nine Serenity's soul-devouring flame in the Beast Mountain. The Dark Devil clan was a branch of the Ghostmark clan. So, the one who had sealed the Nine Serenity's soul-devouring flame was related to the Ghostmark clan. This wasn't a surprise. The Nine Serenity's soul-devouring flame's features had made it the nemesis of the Ghostmark clan. This race had to find any means they could reach to destroy this flame. Letting it survive meant planting an indefinite seed of danger for the clan, which they wouldn't know when it would sprout and kill them all. If Shiryen were the hotshot of the Ghostmark clan, he would try many things to seal the Nine Serenity's soul-devouring flame as well. Where about Ao and Jieji? Shiryen turned around, looking at Bo Rua and Gu Desi. You guys separated? Bo Rua was a member of the Horned Dragon clan. Her long hair cascaded along her body, touching the ground. Her face was as beautiful as a gem, decorated with her phoenix eyes. Hearing him, she snorted and then said, "The two masters are in another area. Stronger enemies are attacking them. Because of you, they have joined hands and attacked our masters." Shiryen was surprised. At this moment, he found that the creature in the dim halo weren't staying with the three Yama Kings. Also, Shiryen didn't see the hotshots of the other clans like Komaros, Corpse Chief, and Kanti. From this situation, he could assume that Bao Ao and Jieji were in big trouble. It's the demon clan who had raised the dispute, Yama King Abi harumphed. He coldly looked at Bo Rua and Gu Desi. If the patriarch of the Ghostmark clan hadn't been revived, you guys would have killed them all. You have triggered this great war. Of course, we won't stay idle and let you slaughter us. Bo Rua and Gu Desi darkened their faces. If you guys want to do whatever you want and open the first demon area, we have to destroy the demon clan, shouted Yama King Haetian. The three Yama Kings glared at Shiryen. Their visages were strange, as if they considered Shiryen their delicious prey. The three Yama Kings didn't talk more. They gathered their followers and left after the Ghostmark clan. Shiryen didn't understand anything, but he had a strange, uneasy feeling in his heart. From the looks of the three Yama Kings when they left, they seemed to be interested in him more, as if he had something marvelous on his body. This surprised him a lot. Shortly, all the members of the Dark Clan had retreated. Bo Rua pinned up her long hair, adjusting her clothes. In the next moment, she returned to look like an elegant, handsome young man. However, her complexion was cold like a gloomy, sharp sword. Abi, Haetian, and Hades might have sent the news already. He will come soon. Bo Rua frowned, whispering to Shiryen. Why did you use the heaven flame? It will bring more troubles. Shiryen squinted, talking faintly. Why do you say so? The dim halo that Abi, Haetian, and Hades have protected carries the soul of the Dark Clan sage. That soul has the Een spirit ghost flame. If he knows you have heaven flames, he will come and collect your flames. Heaven flames can absorb each other. If he can absorb your heaven flames, his soul will become more intimidating, Bo Rua explained agitatedly. A streak of light sparkled in Shurian's eyes. In the antiquity time, a sage of the underworld had fallen into bedevilment during his cultivation. His body got shattered, and his soul had sunk into the Een Spirit Ghost Sea of the underworld. It then gathered the billion Een spirits of the Een Spirit Ghost Sea to evolve into the Een Spirit Ghost Flame. The Een Spirit Ghost Flame contained the knowledge of the martial path of the underworld sage. If the Dark Dweller got it, he could become the new leader of that Dark Dweller's generation. The Een Spirit Ghost Flame could control the Een Spirit and the Wandering Ghosts. It was ranked number 6 among the Heaven Flames and was the most suitable flame to the Dark Clan. According to Bo Rua, the creature that the 3 Yama kings Abi, Haitian, and Hades had protected was the soul of a sage of the Dark Clan. He had the Een Spirit Ghost Flame, but he didn't have a body. At this moment, he still had many weaknesses. If he could absorb some Heaven Flames and get stronger, he could use the scorching power of the Heaven Flame to condense a new body. At that time, he would be extremely intimidating. Chapter 691. The Statues of the Demogorgon. Chapter 691. The Statues of the Demogorgon. The Een Spirit Ghost Flame was special, as only soul-formed beings could absorb it. This cold flame had the energy power that could control the spirits or wandering ghosts of the underworld. At the same time, it contained the martial path of the underworld sage. Apparently, a creature of the underworld had occupied this flame. However, he didn't have a body anymore. That was how his soul could merge with the Een Spirit Ghost Flame. He needed to create a new body to promote his supernatural powers. To create a body, it normally required the strong flesh and blood to be refined by the scorching Heaven Flame. If he could have another Heaven Flame, his soul would be mightier, and the chance of having a body could be bigger. The Heaven Flames could devour each other. This was why the world-extinguishing Thunder Flame wanted to swallow the 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame, the Ice-Cold Flame, and the Earth Flame. If it could merge with the 2 other Heaven Flames, it would be more powerful than itself. That Dark Clan's creature wanted Shurian's Heaven Flames, and Shurian was moved on hearing about the Een Spirit Ghost Flame. The more Heaven Flames he had, the stronger the Heaven Flame altar in his brain would become. At that time, he could urge more intimidating power of those flames. If he could occupy the Een Spirit Ghost Flame and merge it with the 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame, the Corpse Vanishing Flame, the Ice-Cold Flame, and the Earth Flame in the sacrificial altar, this tier of the altar would be sharply increased to another level. Shurian also wanted the flame of that creature. He exists in the soul form only. It shouldn't be hard to deal with him, right? He kept silent for a while before his eyes got brightened. It's not hard to deal with him? Gudasi beamed a forced smile. His scarred face became more ferocious with that smile. Although he only has the soul, he has the strange weapons of the Dark Clan. He has a layer of tens of thousands of Een spirits and wandering ghosts around him. I think even Master Bao Ao couldn't be sure if he could defeat him or not. The corner of Shurian's mouth twitched. As Bao Ao and Jiaji had taken one step into the King God Realm, they were the formidable experts of the peak of True God Realm. If the demon chi in the demon area had been thick enough, they would have reached the King God Realm earlier with their innate talents. In this land, except for the King God Realm experts, not many people could really threaten Bao Ao and Jiaji. Even Chi Tian Oldie Longju wasn't their opponent. If Bao Ao and Jiaji weren't that creature's match, even if Shurian, after having reached the True God Realm with mysterious power Upanishads, he could never defeat that soul of the Dark Clan. Then, Shurian couldn't help but smile miserably. He shook his head begrudgingly as he was filled with pressure. "Why do they want to stop you from opening the first demon area?" asked Shurian. "Wait until you meet our master, he will tell you." Bo Rua put on a glum face as if she really hated him. She didn't want to explain further. Shurian rubbed his nose. As he thought it wasn't interesting, he didn't want to chase further. Bao Ao and Jiaji didn't explain in details to Bo Rua and Gudisi about the relationship between them and Shurian. In their eyes, it was hard to reason why their masters had turned their backs to the other alien tribes for a human brat. If Bao Ao and Jiaji didn't protect them, Shurian's city would have been demolished. It was normal that the human clan would have been eradicated. This was their original plan. However, after Bao Ao found Shi, everything had turned upside down. Their plan wasn't going as they had expected. Bo Rua and Gu Desi didn't know what their masters had thought. They didn't support this idea, so they deemed Shi as the ringleader of all the bad things. Corpses of the demon clan's members scattered everywhere in the second demon area, including their fellows of the Horned Dragon tribe and the Black Scale tribe. They had blamed their fellows' deaths on Shi. "Let's go." Bo Rua harumphed, then walked to a hefty stone in the abyss. That stone was really massive. It was around 100 meters tall, ink black and as rigid as steel. More than 700 members of the demon clan, riding their beasts, gathered from the other areas in the abyss. They had many wounds and were looking at Shi with hatred in their eyes. Gu Desi's mountain-like muscular body was covered with wounds. He didn't care about that and came to that stone. He extended his arm, touching that stone. A wave of brutal energy was poured into that massive stone. It then moved, cracking and revealing a pitch-black entrance. "Bao Ao is in there?" Shi used his soul consciousness to sense for a while. He was surprised that this passage was empty, as he couldn't detect any energy beam of living fluctuation. He couldn't help but ask. "No!" Bo Rua screamed impatiently. She took the lead and entered the wide passage that could allow 100 people walk shoulder by shoulder. Bo Rua and Gu Desi took their members and the beasts and walked through the passage easily. Shi wasn't enraged. He calmly walked behind Bo Rua and Gu Desi into the entrance. The wall of this entrance was also black, as if it was made of black, rigid metal. Some precious gems were inlaid on the wall, illuminating the passage. Waiting until 100 demons and beasts got into the entrance, the stone behind them slowly moved, sealing the entrance. Bo Rua and Gu Desi walked in the front while Shi followed them. The group of people entered deeper into the entrance. Everyone wore a dark face and no one uttered a word. The ambience of this entrance was stiff. In this silent place, many members of the demon clan were wearing a cold face, looking at Shi with their bloodthirsty eyes, as if they were trying to press down their resentment. Demon clan didn't like humans. Shi was a human being, a special human that their masters favored. In those clansmen's eyes, Shi had brought death to their fellows. After all, they would never dare to blame Bao Ao and Jieji. This passage was dry, but it had the smell of rotten things. There was no decoration or anything magical. This place brought only a cold and hard feeling, which irritated people's hearts and minds. They had been walking for several hours. However, Bo Rua and Gu Desi hadn't said a word. Shi also kept his mouth shut. His soul consciousness scanned the place and got to know that this passage was tens of thousands of miles long, as if it would never end. At the same time, it was a spacious place, which was a mega-structure underground. After another 4 hours, when Shi was so bored he got irritated, Bo Rua and Gu Desi suddenly put on a serious countenance, their face respectful and fearful. Shi focused on them, observing these two. The ink-black wall in front of Bo Rua and Gu Desi suddenly had some magical demon patterns, which looked like the lines on a human palm. They were complicated and mysterious at the same time. Bo Rua and Gu Desi stood at that place, biting their fingers to drip their blood on those lines. The demon patterns glowed abruptly like a massive spider web. Those peculiar patterns glowed with silver, green, blue, and orange lights. In this ill-lit passage, they looked both evil and mysterious. A light spot suddenly flashed in the center of the spider web. A light then expanded, sending strange energy fluctuations, lingering and twisting each line. A massive black door emerged in the light. It was 10 meters tall and a dozen of meters wide. Demon chi diffused torrentially from the door. Bo Rua and Gu Desi threw a look over their shoulder, looking at Shi as they entered the door, without a word. Shi smiled clumsily. He got through the door, not waiting for the others to call him. An ancient, spacious grand palace appeared in his sight. This palace was 1,000 meters tall, with an open center, in an area of 10 miles squared. The center of this palace had many giant black pillars decorated with drawings of demonic beasts. Demon scriptures were carved on the walls outside the palace. Each paragraph was inexplicably complicated, as though it was carrying a mysterious power. A deep pond sat in the center of the palace, where a black flame was burning, releasing a thick demon chi. Standing in the center of the black flame in the pond were 7 ferocious-looked Demogorgon statues. Each of them was 100-meter tall, as lively as a real person, with ruthless energy waves. Shuryen stood by that pond as he lifted his head to watch the grand statues. He felt he was so small. Bo Rua and Gu Desi took the clansmen of the demon clan kneeled down by the pond, using the worshipping etiquette of the demon clan with solemn faces. The beasts who came with them seemed to be affected too. They laid down on the ground, gazing at the beast drawings on many pillars in the hall as if they could receive some energy from them. Vastly through 10,000 years, the Demogorgons will doesn't extinguish. Vastly through 10,000 years, the Demogorgons will doesn't extinguish. Bo Rua and Gu Desi kneeled together with their fellows, looking at the 7 statues of the ferocious Demogorgon, hailing them with a strange language. At the moment the voices arose, their mind, spirit, and chi had fused with their energy, turning into many beams, rolling into the 7 statues. It was unknown what kind of material they had used to produce those 7 Demogorgon statues. However, a kind of magical energy was moving continually inside the statues, and it seemed to never fade. Bo Rua, Gu Desi, and the hotshots of the demon clan had used their minds, spirit, chi, and their willpower to create a connection with some power in the 7 Demogorgon statues. They seemed to use that power to test their latest progress and gain more flashes of comprehension. The 7 statues of Demogorgon were like the special existence of the soul sacrificial altar of the corpse clan, which stored the seal of Upanishads of the demon clan and never lost them. Chapter 692. Derive the Inheritance. Chapter 692. Derive the Inheritance. The power Upanishad in those Demogorgon statues was the essence of the demon clan's best techniques, just like the martial arts, martial spirit, and other power Upanishad of human clan. However, human warriors usually used books and scriptures to learn the inheritance, while the demon clan used those statues to gain the pure energy that they were cultivating. These 7 Demogorgon statues seemed to carry kinds of energy and ancient seals of Upanishad, or some new powers that they had just created lately in the 2nd demon area. New members of the demon clan would come here to take the powers. Experts of the clan would visit this place to record the new power Upanishad they had discovered and developed, that the others could come and take it as their inheritance. These 7 Demogorgon statues carried the culture, Upanishad, essence, and the inheritance of the demon clan. This place was the cradle of the 2nd demon area, the most precious thing they had. As Bo Rua, Gu Desi, and the other experts of the demon clan had new cognition of their powers after the battle, they came here to use the 7 Demogorgon statues to verify and gain the cultivating techniques that were more suitable to them. The 7 Demogorgon statues were inexplicably mysterious. They were the great combination of power Upanishads. They could store the knowledge and the way to use energy. All members of the demon clan were humming, connecting themselves with the statues to find the suitable powers for them to learn and break through. Shuryen gawked as he was astounded because of the demon clan's magic. The way they used the statues to impart their inheritance and culture seemed to be more powerful than using books. Books would be damaged with time. Most of the time, the reason why some martial techniques were lost was because the owners were killed, and they didn't leave any books to record their power Upanishad. In such a case, a power Upanishad would disappear forever. The demon clan didn't do the same. They used the carvings on those statues to store the power Upanishads they had gained from the ancient times up to now. Whenever an expert learned a new technique, he would carve it on the statues. Other members could inherit his new technique from the statues or could use it to break through later. From this point of view, the demon clan was a generous clan. They weren't like the human clan who always considered the powers they got a big treasure, which they would never share with the others. Shuryen suddenly got it. It was no longer unknown why the demon clan was so strong. They had recorded the knowledge and wisdom of the experts in the demon area on those statues, which would help the next generation save time and effort in learning new techniques. That's why people said that Demon Clan had no weak members and that everybody was a solider. It was related closely to the Demogorgon statues. Each new member of the Demon Clan could come to this place and receive the inheritance under their senior's guidance. It would be much easier for them to cultivate their powers later. It wasn't like the human clan that only outstanding people could become the disciples of famous experts and enter the martial path. This was also the reason why only a small group among the crowd of tens of thousands of people could become warriors. Human clan, because of their selfishness, wouldn't use this method to preserve the power Upanishads and leave to the next generations, making it an open source for the youths to choose their road of cultivation. Bo Rua, Gu Desi, and the other members of the Demon Clan were still humming, connecting with the 7 Demogorgon statues to feel the mysteries of the power, to learn them and use them for their next battles. Shi Yan stood there motionlessly. He didn't look harmonious with the rest of the Demon Clan, who were kneeling on the ground. Anyway, no one cared about him, as they were busy connecting with the Demogorgon statues. They weren't worried that Shi Yan would disturb them or break the statues. Shortly, the inner world 5 devils in his blood vein ring seemed to sense something. They struggled, getting out of the ring. After the 5 devils had absorbed 36 ghostly spirits in the ring, they had grown up vigorously with mighty, evil soul fluctuations. As soon as the 5 devils got out, they didn't wait for Shi Yan to say anything, flying directly towards the 7 Demogorgon statues, disappearing shortly. Shi Yan was dumbstruck. Bo Rua and the experts of the Demon Clan seemed to not recognize this sudden occurrence. They were still meditating to learn something. However, Shi Yan was so frightened. His soul consciousness flickered, and he found that he still had the connection with the 5 devils. The 5 devils had entered the statues, and they seemed to take in the powers there happily. This finding astounded Shi Yan a lot. The 5 devils were taking the power Upanishad that the Demon Clan had been imparting for tens of thousands of years in the statues. What kind of F***king situation is it? The 5 devils' absorption speed was rapid. Shortly, they left one statue to go to another. The connection between Shi Yan and the 5 devils became clearer. He found a large amount of knowledge of new realms, demon techniques, and methods he didn't know. When the 5 devils were taking in the power of the statues, it wasn't that they were erasing the powers and knowledge stored in there, as they had just restored the streaks of cognition in their own souls. So, they didn't cause any anomaly to the statues that Bo Rua and the others could recognize. The number of techniques and power Upanishads wasn't changed. Only Shi Yan knew that the 5 devils had changed slowly. Their aura became more eccentric, as if they were gaining intellect. Shortly, the 5 devils had turned into 5 gray shadows, flying to his sea of consciousness instead of the blood vein ring, before Bo Rua's group could recognize them. His sea of consciousness was changed again. After the 5 devils had entered, they proactively found a place, gathering in a circle and releasing flows of magical techniques of the Demon Clan. The 5 devils were now based a little bit farther from the tier of the heaven flame and the seals of Upanishads. They seemed to condense a part of the mysterious tier. Shi Yan was more startled. Currently, he had a 3-tiered altar in his head with the Sea of Consciousness as the bottom, the Heaven Flames and Power Upanishads as the 2nd tier, and his God Soul topping them all. At this moment, the 5 devils had expanded a section in the 2nd tier, building a sacrificial altar similar to the Heaven Flames and Power Upanishads. Shi Yan didn't know what would be stirred up due to this change. He didn't know how to stop them. He could only gawk at the 5 devils after they had absorbed the mysteries of demon techniques, rolling in his sea of consciousness. Right after that, flows of black flame on the pond nearby started to roll over Shi Yan, as if they were pulled by some mysterious power. Those black flames weren't a real fire. They were the demon chi that was condensed to carry the massive demon energy. Flows of flames covered him as if he were burned by a black fire. Only he knew that the 5 devils had dragged the demon energy in this black fire to configure a new altar. Muscles and blood in his body surged altogether. Drops of immortal blood that he had treasured were pulled out, gathering in his sea of consciousness. The mix of his immortal blood chi, demon chi, and the strange aura of the demon techniques had become the foundation of the new altar. Shi felt hurt seeing the 5 devils using his immortal blood. However, he had no way to stop them. In his mind, Shi wanted to see what the 5 devils wanted to do. He vaguely felt that the 5 devils wouldn't harm him, and instead would give him big benefits. Gradually, a shining blood section appeared. It was like a viscous blood sea, with a miraculous winding air floating above the sea. Demon chi then poured into the blood sea, turning it into a black and red sea. The 5 devils arrayed in a pentagonal formation. They stood imposingly like the 5 Demogorgon statues at the 5 corners, using his immortal blood, essence chi, demon chi, and the other techniques to condense a section similar to the altar of the heaven flames and the seals of Upanishad. A new section of the sacrificial altar. "What are you doing?" Bo-Rua suddenly screamed in fright. She awakened first, and she saw the black flame in the pond covering Shi entirely. Suddenly, Gu Deci and the other members of the demon clan stood up. Their faces were ferocious, as if they all wanted to kill Shi. This place was the holy land of the demon clan. The Hall of Demogorgon was the holy place, where all demons could take the mysterious powers of the clan. If Bao Ao and Jiaji hadn't advised them, even if they had to die, they would have never brought Shi here. He had come here obediently, and now he had caused something strange that made the thick demon chi cover his body. Bo-Rua's group couldn't stand it. They hated that they couldn't slash Shi 10,000 times to kill him. Nobody had witnessed the 5 devils taking the mysterious inheritance in the statues, so they didn't know that Shi wasn't willing to do that. They assumed that Shi wanted to mess this place up. Shi couldn't answer her, as the 5 devils were torturing him in his head, consuming his soul consciousness and essence chi. At this moment, he couldn't get distracted. He had to observe the sea of consciousness, as he was afraid that something bad would happen. He didn't notice what was happening around him. This human has triggered the demon flame. He must have done something wrong. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him. In just a blink, all members of the demon clan in the Hall of Demogorgon thundered. The Hall of Demogorgon was the holy place no one could trespass. The respect they had for this place was much more than what they had for Bao Ao and Jiaji. Trespassing the Hall of Demogorgon meant someone wanted to uproot the demon clan in the second demon area. That person would never be forgiven. Bo-Rua and Gu Deci changed their face amidst the furious screams. At this moment, they got a headache as they didn't know how to calm down the situation. Before Bao Ao left them, he had asked them seriously to bring Shi to the Demogorgon Hall if they found him. And they had to protect Shi, keeping him safe and sound. However, Shi seemed to trigger everyone's anger in this Hall of Demogorgon. Those clansmen were enraged, thinking that he had violated the hall. They must use his blood to wash this place. What should we do now? Gu Deci frowned, asking Bo-Rua in a low tone, his face begrudging. Master has advised us to keep him safe. But our demon clan has rules. Anyone who trespasses the Hall of Demogorgon would be executed. There's no exception even to our clansmen, let alone a human being. Bo-Rua also had a headache. We can't contact our master now. It's a headache. Erg, so annoying. Chapter 693, The Mark. Chapter 693, The Mark. In the Demogorgon Hall, Shi was tense, watching the change of his sea of consciousness. A new section of the altar was formed gradually. The black flame was still engulfing him, making a large amount of demon chi run disorderly in his body. Most of it started to get into his sea of consciousness, while the remaining part ran through his vessels to reach his internal organs and limbs. The 5 devils in the pentagonal formation were bobbing in his sea of consciousness, gathering the tremendous energy to finish the final step. The screams of the demon clan's members thundered and reverberated in the Hall of Demogorgon. Many clansmen were enraged as they all wanted to kill Shi. Bo-Rua and Gu Deci couldn't control the current situation. Howl, howl, howl. Strong black flames like pieces of leaf engulfed Shi. At this moment, a wave of pure demon energy diffused from him, lingering inside the hall. Many members of the demon clan saw Shuriyan's body taking in the black flames from the pond, giving him a demon, eccentric aura. The black ribbon covering his head fell as an ancient mark glowed. A flow of torrential, immense soul energy surged from the mark, just like the heavenly might. Many members of the demon clan felt their souls tremble continually, such that they couldn't even stand still. They became grimaced. Bo Rua and Gu Desi were stunned. They gawked at the mark on his head and couldn't hide the fear on their faces. The energy from the mark was clear. It was obviously the magical inheritance of the demon clan. As it was still sealed, the soul energy accumulated in that seal was earth-shaking. The mark on Shuriyan's forehead just flashed, then restored its normal state. However, the clansmen here had all felt a deep tremor in their souls. It was like an ancient Demogorgon was imposingly taking a walk around the hall, making them feel small and incapable of resisting. The thought of killing Shuriyan in Bo Rua and Gu Desi's mind suddenly weakened. They stood there dumbstruck as they recalled the mark they had just seen. Famous ancient families of the demon clan all had the mighty marks, which stored the history, culture, and inheritance of the family. It was the special power Upanishad, but it wasn't like the Demogorgon statues. This kind of mark was carved on the body of the demon clan's clansmen. Just like the martial spirit of human warriors, it had tremendous powers and would never disappear. As Bo Rua and Gu Desi belonged to the ancient Bao family, they had some knowledge of ancient marks. However, they had watched for a while but still couldn't figure out which family the mark on Shuriyan's head belonged to. However, they could verify one thing: Shuriyan wasn't human. Only people with the demon clan's bloodline could receive the mark, which was also the crest of the family. Persons who carried the mark couldn't be human. Their hatred towards Shuriyan faded after they had recognized Shuriyan was from the same clan. Clansmen who were the most hostile also calmed down, looking at him with surprise. At this moment, they finally recognized that Shuriyan was still absorbing the demon power of the black flame, and he seemed to be doing something. Demon Soul Sacrificial Altar. Bo Rua observed for a while and then shouted with astonishment. Gu Desi was frightened. She gazed at Shuriyan and asked Bo Rua, "Are you sure?" The demon clan was like the other races. When they reached the true God realm, they could condense the sacrificial altar in their sea of consciousness. The demon clan's sacrificial altar had 3 tiers. The bottom was the sea of consciousness, the top was the demon soul, and the middle tier was the techniques and powers they had learned. This was the main cultivating path of many races. What Shuriyan was doing was to condense the demon soul sacrificial altar in the second tier of his altar. Bo Rua was at the second sky of true God realm. After watching for a while, she could confirm this information, which astounded her greatly. Usually, when a warrior broke through the true God realm, he could create the soul sacrificial altar in his head. But it wouldn't change shortly. It was obvious that Shuriyan had reached the true God realm, and he had the soul sacrificial altar in his head. However, at this moment, it wasn't normal that he was condensing a tier once again. Bo Rua and Gu Desi couldn't understand why he could change the structure of the soul altar for the second time. They couldn't enter Shuriyan's sea of consciousness. Otherwise, if they saw the heaven flame altar on Shuriyan's sea of consciousness beside the seals of Upanishad, they would be startled as if they had seen ghosts. When human warriors used one kind of power Upanishad to break through, this power would become the foundation of his altar's second tier when he reached the true God realm. Shuriyan's second tier had 3 seals of Upanishad, including the star, the death and life, and space, which was unusual. The heaven flame altar was an unreasonable area. This was so different from the cultivating path of normal people. Right when Bo Rua and Gu Desi were still dumbstruck, Shuriyan inhaled a breath of dark demon chi. He opened his eyes and then grinned. It feels good. A new section of the altar was formed with his blood, essence chi, demon chi, mind, and spirit, to blend with the inheritance of the demon clan that the 5 devils had just absorbed. The 5 devils sat neatly on the 5 corners of the altar. They were motionless, connecting with his soul. Countless currents were moving in the center of the altar, generating a chaotic movement. It was the development of the demon techniques and mysteries that could connect with Shuriyan. When his thought flickering, his god's soul ran into the altar. He then found many strange and rare demon cultivating and martial techniques. There were more than 1,000 techniques with different ways of using energy. However, they were just the basic ones. At the same time, he could find some complete and powerful cultivating techniques. That altar seemed to become a store that recorded the techniques that had been stored over tens of thousands of years in the 7 Demogorgon statues of the second demon area. They were so complicated that he felt his head was enlarging. This place was like a giant bookstore. Those techniques and power Upanishad were similar to the books of techniques that guided people on their cultivation path. Most of the techniques were categorized, specialized for different races. A method wasn't suitable for everybody, especially the demon clan, which had many branches with different, unique physiques. That's why those methods were classified. Shuryen felt that he had entered the vast ocean of knowledge, where the techniques and method were the seawater that he could read and cultivate. But he soon found that that knowledge wasn't useful for him. All techniques and power Upanishads specified which branch of the demon clan could cultivate them. The Black Scale tribe and the Horned Dragon tribe had different cultivating techniques. They were even contrasting to each other. The first thing he needed to know before starting cultivating a demon technique was to figure out which branch of the demon clan he belonged to. Without this information, although he had so many cultivating techniques and methods, and some of them were so mighty, he couldn't practice any of them. That sea of knowledge was the foundation of the altar. Without them, his altar could never be formed. Shuryen was still musing, and he didn't notice Bo Rua and Gu Desi's changes. Only when Bo Rua made a dry cough did he then wake up. The 7 Demogorgon statues are the roots of our second demon area. They keep the vast sea of knowledge. As you can build the altar, it means you've got the inheritance from the statues, right? Bo Rua observed him and then asked. Shuryen nodded. It's true. Although it wasn't the method you mentioned, I did have the inheritance from the statues. However, it seems I can't cultivate it. The inheritance of the statues in the second demon area isn't the top grade one. It doesn't have the seal of Upanishads of the King God realm. Bo Rua gazed at him. Anyway, the first demon area is different. Our masters said that the Demogorgon statues in the first demon area store the mysteries of power that the King God realm experts could study further. It's also why the 2 masters have to go there. Only receiving the inheritance from the statues in the first demon area can help them break through and advance. Shuryen was sensitive enough to see the change of Bo Rua. This woman was talking nonstop. Her impatience seemed to have vanished. Why did you tell me that? Shuryen was bewildered, frowning. I understand the 2 masters' concern. Perhaps you are the key to open the first demon area, said Bo Rua. Gu Desi's eyes brightened as he was excited. The other members of the demon clan were also stirred up, their faces surprised. The first demon area was the ancestral land of the demon clan. Demon chi there was as thick as water. It also had the top-grade Demogorgon statues, with more precious knowledge of the demon clan stored through generations. Once they got there, they could thrive. In their hearts, the first demon area was the Holy Land, which they always yearned for a glimpse of. As they knew that Shuryen would be the key to open the first demon area, people who wanted to kill him weren't hostile anymore. Why do the other clans not want you to open it? Asked Shuryen. It requires an enormous amount of heaven and earth energy to open the first demon area. The moment the first demon area opens, it will draw the energy of heaven and earth in the Grace mainland proactively. Bo Rua hesitated for a while and then said, it would be alright if it were in the antiquity. At that time, heaven and earth energy was thick like the cluster of clouds that would never disperse. So, the required energy to open the demon area wasn't a big deal in that era. Pausing for a while, Bo Rua said, but it's different now. After tens of thousands of years, heaven and earth energy in this continent is thin and scattered. If we open the first demon area, it will take 1/3 of the energy. The other clans would never let this happen. Shuryen was surprised. Chapter 694. Drawing of Lao Luo. Chapter 694. Drawing of Lao Luo. The heaven and earth energy was the cultivating foundation of the warriors. No matter it was spiritual chi, demon chi, dark chi, or mysterious yin chi, It was just a kind of heaven and earth energy. To the big clans, heaven and earth energy was essential for their survival and upgrades. They would never quit using it. After 10,000 years, the continent, which used to be filled with heaven and earth energy, now had just a thin layer left, which was also the reason why it was tough to see any king-god realm experts. Under the given circumstance of the shortage of heaven and earth's energy, of course, the other clans would never let Bao Ao and Jiaji use 1/3 of it to open the first demon area. This explained why they wanted to uproot the demon clan. Using 1/3 of heaven and earth energy in the Grace mainland to open a demon area surprised Shi Yan. Bo Ruo explained him the situation and the reason why the other 4 great clans wanted to join hands and eradicate the demon clan. Where about Ao and Jiaji? Where should we meet them? Shi Yan pondered for a while and then asked. In here, Bo Ruo pointed at the ground under her feet. If Master Bao Ao and Jiaji can escape, they will definitely get here. We should wait here. I hope they will be safe and sound. After she said that, many clansmen put on a heavy countenance. Worry sparkled in their eyes. This time, the Ghostmark clan, the Dark Spirit clan, the Dark clan, and the Corpse clan had attacked them. These 4 clans had many hotshots, not to mention the patriarch of the Ghostmark clan. Although they were confident about Bao Ao and Jiaji's competence, under the furious attack of such mighty force, they were still worried a lot. They were especially worried about the threat that came from the reincarnated patriarch of the Ghostmark clan and the one who had the Een Spirit Ghost Flame of the Dark clan. Bo Ruo explained, then waved her hand to dismiss her fellows. The other members of the demon clan then started to talk and build the relationship with their demonic beasts. The relationship between the demon clan and the demonic beasts was always good. Some demons and their beasts would never separate, as they were the best partners of each other. Sometimes their relationship was more than siblings. No matter how busy they were, they always spent time to use the soul to contact their beasts. This would increase their compatibility. Gu Deci and the group of demons he led also found a corner and started to talk to their mounts using their souls. No one paid attention to Shi Yan. For the time being, no one noticed Shi Yan, who was sitting neatly in the spacious hall of Demogorgon. He became the idlest person at the moment. Shi Yan wasn't angry, as he could see the demons' attitude towards him had changed. It was enough as they didn't scream and want to kill him. In the hall of Demogorgon, Shi Yan put on an indifferent countenance and took a walk around the place. He observed the patterns and drawings on the pillars and on the walls, as he wanted to see if he could understand the mysteries of those drawings. This was a rare experience. To normal people, although their relationship with the demon clan wasn't bad, they weren't allowed to enter the hall of Demogorgon. Since this place was the place where they received the inheritance, they would never let any outsider trespass the hall. As he could visit the hall of Demogorgon today, it was his great honor. Each corner of the Demogorgon Hall was filled with mysteries. Many young people of the demon clan could comprehend something while watching the patterns and drawings in this place. The Hall of Demogorgon in the second demon area had been established a long time ago. Tens of thousands of years ago, when the demon clan exploited this area, the first thing they had done was to build the Hall of Demogorgon. The Hall of Demogorgon was the foundation of the demon clan. Wherever many members of the demon clan gathered, there existed the Hall of Demogorgon. If the hall was demolished, it meant that the demon clan in that space had been eradicated. As the Hall of Demogorgon had been built dozens of thousands of years ago, the beast's drawings and the demon scriptures were carved by the experts in that era. Sometimes they would glow with a strange light, carrying some kind of marvelous intent domain. If it were a wise demon, he could gain the great benefit after comprehending it. Shi Yan just walked back and forth. He took turns after turns to observe many demon scriptures and drawings. Slowly, he reached a wall with many magical patterns. Those lines sketched a rough image of a giant demon facing the sky and howling. Behind him was a massive dark sun, which could swallow all beams of light. Shi Yan was startled. He vaguely had a familiar feeling that he had seen this giant demon before. War Devil. That was the War Devil. The demon on that drawing looked 70% similar to the War Devil. If the war devil was zoomed several times and its eyes showed the endless darkness, the war devil would look exactly like the demon in this drawing. This finding startled him. He felt inexplicably scared and surprised. War Devil was a dark clone of Lao Luo, one of the bloodthirsty's cortege of 8. However, Lao Luo was the worst among the 8. Why did he have his image carved here? According to Bo Rua, this hall of Demogorgon had been built by the experts of the demon clan dozens of thousands of years ago. So, Lao Luo's image had been here from that time. In other words, how old was the era when Lao Luo lived? Members of the demon clan who could have their images carved on the wall of the hall were all earth-shaking experts. Their images represented the glory and power they had. This meant Lao Luo should have been very intimidating. Shuryen didn't change his face, studying the drawings of Lao Luo for a while. Suddenly, he coughed. Bo Rua was staying in with a young girl of the demon clan not far from him. Hearing his cough, she frowned. A streak of impatience flashed on her face. If she didn't have the features of the horned dragon tribe on her head, she wouldn't be different from a beautiful, wheat-skinned human girl. With a pair of phoenix eyes and a picturesque appearance, she was an outstanding beauty. The woman came, glaring at Shuryen and then at the drawing of Lao Luo. "What's up? Who is the demon in this drawing?" Shuryen pretended to know nothing. "Why is there a black sun behind him? He looks strange. I'm curious if he were a strong expert of the demon clan in the antiquity. I don't know who he is, but I know he must be one of the strongest hotshots of the demon clan in the antiquity. That's how he got his picture here." Bo Rua furrowed her eyebrows and then continued. "Only the members that made a great contribution to the clan with their mighty power could get the approval from the Hall of Demogorgon and become a drawing of the hall. How about the 7 statues of Demogorgon?" Shuryen was astounded. He couldn't help but look over his shoulder. The Demogorgon statues are the foundation of the demon clan's inheritance. "Each statue is one of the Demogorgon in antiquity time," said Bo Rua. "What's the difference between the drawings on the wall and the statues? Could the one who get the picture here become a Demogorgon?" asked Shuryen. "You have so many questions." Bo Rua was a little bit impatient. She contemplated for a while but still explained to him. "Clansmen who have surpassed the king god realm could become the Demogorgon. After dozens of thousands of years, our entire demon clan has had only 7 Demogorgons. They are the 7 statues that you've seen here. Surpassed the king god realm." Shuryen discolored. He looked at the 7 Demogorgon statues as a feeling of respect rose in his heart. This was the first time he had heard about someone who had surpassed the king god realm. Today, he had known that the king god realm wasn't the ultimate of the martial path. Beyond the king god realm, it was another world. "So where are the 7 Demogorgons?" asked Shuryen. "They might have left." Bo Rua wasn't so certain. "Perhaps they are dead. We need to get into the first demon area to know the answer." "Why?" "The 7 Demogorgon statues just contain the power Upanishad. They can't interact." Bo Rua hesitated for a while and then continued. "According to Master Bo Rua and Jiaji, the 7 Demogorgon statues in the first demon area can interact with the others. As long as they aren't dead, the 7 Demogorgons could still send the power Upanishad and their comprehensions of the martial path they've had in the universe to the statues, which will benefit our future generations." Shuryen was astounded. They still could receive the power Upanishad from the 7 Demogorgons in the foreign lands. If it were true, once Bao Ao and Jia Ji entered the first demon area and received the inheritance from the statues, their realm and power should skyrocket, right? You are also a member of the demon clan. If you can receive the inheritance from this area, of course, you can receive the inheritance in the first demon area. If we can open the first demon area and find the top-grade 7 Demogorgon statues, you will gain bigger benefits. Bo Rua looked at Shuryen nonchalantly. "Why did they leave?" Shuryen contemplated for a while and then asked. "Heaven and earth energy in this continent isn't enough for them to level up anymore." Bo Rua sighed. "The energy of this continent is really scarce at this moment. It's been 10,000 years, and we haven't seen any king god realm warriors yet. It's because of the change of the energy. I heard our master say that each continent has its own cycle of energy. At first, its energy is full. After creatures start to appear and absorb the energy, gradually, after dozens of thousands of years, the energy of the continent will be drained up. At some point in time, it will be over. Shuryen was surprised. This continent seems to be reaching the end of its energy cycle. Perhaps, the energy of this place would empty out after another 1,000 years. Bo-Rua shook her head begrudgingly. We don't have much time left. If we can't enter the true God realm sooner, we will have no way to escape. Later on, we will be dead because of running out of energy. Shuryen felt like a hammer had just pounded on his heart. Shuryen was now totally awakened, having a new cognition of heaven and earth. And he also had a deeper understanding of this continent. Chapter 695, Undying Demon Tribe. Chapter 695, Undying Demon Tribe. Shuryen kept quiet, but he had thousands of thoughts in his head. He would never have known about the existence that surpassed the King God realm if Bo-Rua didn't tell him. Also, now he knew that each continent had its own energy cycle, and the Grace mainland was at the end of its cycle. Soon, this place would run out of energy. He knew Bo-Rua couldn't deceive him. From many old books, he had found that there were invincible existences in immemorial epic, and each of them seemed to have endless powers. In that era, the 7 Demogorgons that had surpassed the King God realm had left the continent to the outer space. Those were enough to prove how thick the heaven and earth energy was in those 2 eras. Also, they had had so many rare and precious natural products, which helped them reach that level. Currently, this continent was worn out by strong creatures in the immemorial epic and the experts of the antiquity. At present times, it was hard to reach the high realm. Time was running out. If the Grace mainland didn't have the natural energy anymore one day, warriors would have nothing to support their cultivation, which would hold them from reaching the higher realms. Without heaven and earth energy, spiritual herbs couldn't grow. Without heaven and earth energy, there would be no essence chi crystallization. Shuryen felt terrible thinking about these things. Heaven and earth energy was the root of all strong clans. The day this energy was drained was the doomsday of all races. When Bao-Ao and Jia-Ji opened the first demon area, it would increase the usage speed of heaven and earth energy. Losing 1/3 of the current amount, this energy on the Grace mainland would be used up rapidly. No wonder why the other clans didn't stay idle. Even if it were Shuryen, he would have to consider if he wanted to support Bao-Ao and Jia-Ji or not. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Strange noises came from a wall of the Hall of Demogorgon, as if someone was setting a fire behind it. Bo-Rua and Gu-Disi jolted, walking to that corner with surprised and happy faces. The Hall of Demogorgon cracked open a slit. Bao-Ao and Jia-Ji walked through, bringing with them several thousands of warriors of the demon clan and their mounts. Bao-Ao and Jia-Ji looked a little bit distressed. They had blood on their bodies. They seemed to be exhausted with different level of damage. Their auras were also weaker than usual. Masters, Bo-Rua and Gu-Disi kneeled down on one knee, shouting in a low tone. Bao-Ao waved his hand to lift them up. Suddenly, his eyes got brighter as he saw Shuryen. He nodded to the young man. Kid, you're here. He looked tired, but he still walked directly towards Shuryen and didn't notice that Bo-Rua and Gu-Disi hadn't stood up yet. His deep eyes gazed on Shuryen, his face astounded. The foul-mouthed Jia-Ji seemed to have worse wounds than Bao-Ao. He looked as if he had sunken blood. Just like a beast, he screamed and roared, wanting to find the Ghostmark clan and solve the grudge. While he was talking boisterously, he walked towards Shuryen. At first glance, he cried, you got the demon soul sacrificial altar. Nonsense. Bao-Ao cursed him. This kid has the noblest blood of our demon clan. Isn't it natural that he got the inheritance from this hall? Pausing for a while, Bao-Ao continued with an odd expression. But I don't know why you have 3 sections beneath your god soul. Besides the demon altar, what are the other 2? Strange. It's extraordinary. I can't understand this at all. Shuryen was startled inside as Bao-Ao could see the mysteries beneath his god soul with just one glance. Wasn't he a demon who wasn't good at soul knowledge? How about you guys? The other clans hadn't hurt you badly, had they? Shuryen smiled. Don't talk about it. F*CK, the patriarch of the Ghostmark clan. That A** Shoals revived. He has a cultivation base of King God realm. If his power had been recovered fully, we would have had no chance to return here. So annoying. They're so annoying. If I had known it earlier, I would have killed the Ghostmark clan first, G thundered. And that the * starred of the Dark Clan could control tens of thousands of Een spirits and hollow souls. He's also morbid. It's lucky that we're strong. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to meet you again. Okay, stop babbling. It's good that we could come back here. We shouldn't waste time, Bao intervened. He looked at Shi Yan with a solemn countenance. Are you ready? Ready for what? Opening the first demon area, of course. Shi Yan's face became serious. I heard Bo Rua said that it needs 1/3 of the Grace Mainland's heaven and earth energy to open the first demon area. Is it true? Isn't it rubbish? Ji intervened. If not, why the 4 clans would chase us crazily? It speeds up the rate of destruction the entire Grace Mainland, Shi Yan contemplated. If the heaven and earth energy is running out, not to mention the 4 clans and the human clan, the demon clan will also find it hard to level up. Aren't you a little harebrained doing that? Do you worry for the next generations? Actually, Shi Yan was worried about his people in the utmost 8 Purgatory City, Yang Tian Emperor, Shi Jian, his elders, and the others whom he respected a lot. If the Grace Mainland didn't have heaven and earth energy anymore, they wouldn't be able to break through further, and their martial path would have been severed. Shi Yan, I have a question for you. Bao didn't change his visage, frowning. Even if we don't do anything, energy on the Grace Mainland will run out one day, right? Shi Yan nodded. Yes, it will. But it's a long time later. Bao beamed a forced smile. That little time doesn't work. Once the heaven and earth energy is emptied out, as the martial art practitioners, we will face a lot of disasters. If it has to be that way, we'd better open the first demon area and find the 7 great Demogorgon statues. Then, we'll see if we can find any solution. At least, Ji and I can take the chance and break through to the King God realm. At that time, we are eligible to leave this place. We will be responsible for the demon clan to find another foreign land, which is suitable for our clan to live and cultivate. Then, we will help human clan to leave too. Shi Yan was musing. Bao's words were reasonable. Anyhow, the Grace Mainland was about to reach the end of its energy cycle. If they opened the first demon area, they would just accelerate it by 1/3. But if it were like what they said, the Demogorgon statues in the first demon area could store some good methods or techniques. At least, Bao and Ji could have a chance to receive the high-quality inheritance and break through the King God realm. At that time, they could escape this continent and find a better place for the demon clan. All members of the demon clan inside the Hall of Demogorgon kept silent, looking at Shi Yan. They all knew that Shi Yan was the key factor for opening the first demon area. If he didn't want to cooperate with them, their hope would be extinguished. Most of the members of the demon clan had a clear understanding of the Grace Mainland's situation. They knew that this place would be drained soon. By the time they got out of the second demon area, they planned to kill the other clans to reduce the consumption of heaven and earth energy in this continent. Heaven and earth energy was used by strong experts to whet their martial path and perform attacks or defenses. No matter it was to restore the essence chi or breaking through new realms, it was closely related to using the heaven and earth energy. In their eyes, if the other clans were all extinguished, leaving only the demon clan, the consumption rate would be slowed down and they could have more time to prepare. Of course, Bao and Ji had never given up on opening the first demon area. They had asked the Ghostmark clan to make the sacrificial altar to connect to the Antiquity Demogorgon to find this key. But it was too bad that they failed. When they found Shi Yan, they saw hope in him. Then, they made up their minds. No matter what, they had to protect Shi Yan to open the first demon area later. Are you sure I can help you open it? Shi Yan pondered for a while and then gazed at the other two. Bao and Ji nodded. It would be impossible without me. The other two nodded again with solemn faces, not seeming to be joking. Shi Yan smiled and then nodded. Then you have to agree on one thing. Say it. The two shouted hurriedly. If you guys can figure out the solution, my people should be benefited from it too. Shiyan spoke slowly. Shiyan had considered it clearly. At this point of time, whether Bao Ao or Jiaji wanted to carry out their plan or not, this continent would be emptied out soon. If it had to be that way, it'd be better to work with Bao Ao and Jiaji to find a new chance to survive. There were intimidating existences in the antiquity and the immemorial epic in the foreign lands. Would it be better for them if they could meet those existences? If it didn't work here, should they go to another place and find a continent where the energy was still rich and abundant? Everything would be solved, right? As long as he could take his people, Shiyan thought that cooperating with Bao Ao and Jiaji wasn't a bad decision. They are your family members. It's no problem if you want to take them. Bao Ao made a quick decision and agreed immediately. Moreover, you don't have many people, so it's all right. Jiaji nodded continually. Shiyan smiled relaxedly. Okay, I agree to help you open the first demon area. He paused for a while and then asked, what should I do? Use the blood you extracted last time. The immortal demon blood. Bao Ao let out a low shout. Immortal demon blood? Shiyan was surprised. Yes, the immortal demon blood, the blood of the Undying demon tribe. The Undying demon tribe is the tribe that had the strongest fighting competence among the other tribes of the demon clan in ancient times. It's the only tribe that could fight face-to-face with the same realm god clan members. And the god clan is considered the perfect race. In the antiquity, a spirit realm god clan warrior could kill 3 warriors at the same level from the other clans except for your clan. And only the members of the Undying demon tribe could fight the god clan's members one-on-one without falling into the disadvantaged situation. Shiyan was struck. Bao Ao pointed behind him. See? The 7 Demogorgon statues are all the experts of our demon clan who had surpassed the king god realm during tens of thousands of years. Our demon clan has many branches. As far as I've known, the demon clan had more than dozens of branches in the antiquity time. Your Undying demon tribe is just one of them. However, there are 3 out of 7 experts who had surpassed the king god realm and were from the Undying demon tribe. Shiyan couldn't help but get frightened. Bao Ao's words had struck him vehemently. You have the immortal demon blood. It's the Demogorgon's blood. It's the same blood that those 3 experts had. And the Demogorgon's blood is the key to open the first demon area. Only the demon clan's branches that have the Demogorgon could possibly have the Demogorgon's blood, which is the blessing of our ancestors, said Bao Ao with a respectful face. Chapter 696. Open. Chapter 696. Open. The 7 statues were the replicas of the 7 Demogorgon during tens of thousands of years of the demon clan. Each Demogorgon was an existence that surpassed the king god realm. Direct descendants of the 7 antiquity Demogorgons would probably have the Demogorgon's blood, with many different marvelous effects. Usually, it had a massive energy with the mysteries of the martial path. The immortal demon blood was one of the Demogorgon's blood kind, which could heal the body and predict friends' or relatives' activities. Shiyan had never known that the immortal blood in his body was the blood of the Demogorgon of the demon clan. He finally got the information from Bao Ao. What happened to the Undying demon tribe? Why did you assume that they were exterminated? Shiyan pondered for a while and then asked. The Undying demon tribe was combative innately. They were the true fighters. However, this tribe didn't have a large population. It was usually like that. During fighting in the antiquity, they were always the pioneers to expel the god clan, while the other clans followed behind them. In battles with the god clan, if the Undying demon tribe's members weren't the vanguard, the other clans could never have endured. Eventually, the god clan left, leaving the Undying demon tribe with severe losses. That battle had cost them 4/5 of the population. Bao Ao continued his explanation. Not long after the god clan left, the 9 clans' great war happened. As the Undying demon tribe had the strongest fighting competence in the demon clan, they continued to shoulder the most important missions of the clan. In that war, they had almost no members remaining. In the end, when human clan rose, the Undying demon tribe disappeared. Otherwise, human clan would never have a chance to rule the continent, Bao Ao growled. Where had the 7 antiquity Demogorgons gone? Some of them had left before the war with the God clan, and some left after that to the foreign land, since the heaven and earth energy in the Grace mainland wasn't enough for warriors at their levels to continue their cultivation. Whenever we gain a Demogorgon, the other clans have to be afraid of us the most, replied Bao Ao. Shuryen frowned, pointing at the drawing of Lao Luo. Do you know him? He was a precursor of our demon clan. According to the description from the Demogorgon statues, he was called Lao Luo. In the antiquity and after the war with the God clan, he was one of the most prominent warriors of our clan. He had reached the King God realm at an amazing speed. Later, he didn't wait for too long. Or perhaps it had happened in that time when heaven and earth energy wasn't enough to help the King God realm warriors in breaking through the next realm. He didn't continue to break through here to become the 8th Demogorgon. He left early. This precursor called Lao Luo was a miracle of our clan during that period. He had comprehended the power of darkness. He didn't have many rivals for his whole life. Shuryen was struck as he could confirm the demon on that drawing was Lao Luo. From the blood vein ring, he got a streak which said that Lao Luo was one of the 8 cortege of bloodthirsty, and he was the weakest. He must be the entourage of the blood vein ring's previous owner. Have you ever heard about anybody that Lao Luo had submitted to? Shuryen suddenly asked. He was quite tense, as he thought that he was about to get the answer for the mysterious profile of the blood vein ring. For the previous owner of this ring, the ring that had given him so many miracles, he had sincere respect. It was because even if he had reached the true God realm, he hadn't gotten the approval from the ring spirit. This spirit didn't even care about him, as it thought his power was too weak to be worth being the ring's new master. What kind of joke is that? Jie intervened, shaking his head continually. In that period, Lao Luo was invincible. There was no hotshot of any clan who dared to provoke him. How could he be someone's entourage? By the time he left the Grace mainland, he was the most intimidating existence of that time. I can't think of anyone who could subdue him. Shuryen's eyes brightened. He had a new conclusion. The blood vein ring didn't belong in the Grace mainland. Lao Luo was apparently one of the 8 cortege of bloodthirsty. If he were so strong at that time as one of the most mighty existences of the Grace mainland, there would be no one eligible to subdue him and make him call that one master. Then only one possibility was left. It had happened after Lao Luo had left the Grace mainland. Someone in the endless starry sea of the universe had subdued him. And this person was the previous master of the blood vein ring. From this point, the blood vein ring apparently didn't belong to the Grace mainland. As this train of thought crossed Shuryen's head, he had a better understanding of the universe. Now he knew that the universe had existences that went beyond his imagination. If we're prepared, we should do it now. I've been waiting for this moment for such a long time. Bao Ao rubbed his hands, talking excitedly. Shuryen nodded, pressing down the thoughts of the blood vein ring and Lao Luo. He smiled faintly. How to open it? Bao Ao didn't answer him. Instead, he walked with Jie towards the pond in the center of the Hall of Demogorgon. When their reflections appeared in the pond, the black burning flame flew and got into the 7 Demogorgon statues. The sight at the lake bottom revealed little by little. It was an enormous demon drawing, which was inexplicable to the Acme, containing endless mysteries. The 7 Demogorgon statues had become 7 nodes of that mysterious drawing, as if they were some kind of a formation eye. Bao Ao and Jie stood right at the center of the 7 Demogorgon statues. Under their feet was a magic formation sketched by demonic patterns. Demon energy was seething, releasing the aura that could distort people's souls. Shuryen was stunned looking at it. Come here, Bao Ao waved at him, signaling him to come. He laughed contentedly. The entrance is here. However, once it opens, this place will be ruined. The Hall of Demogorgon won't exist anymore. The 7 Demogorgon statues will go with us. Anyway, it's not important. As long as we can find the top-grade Demogorgon statues in the first demon area, we will get a better inheritance. At that time, we can escape this place. We don't need to prepare anything? Shi Yan asked with uncertainty. Don't worry. We've prepared everything before you came here, Bao Ao smiled. We just need only one thing, your Demogorgon blood. With the Demogorgon blood as the key, we can activate the other things we've prepared. Hurry up. Don't delay here. We've been waiting for you for almost 1 year. Jie was hurried. You brat, you told us it would take only half a month. Turns out you wasted 1 year. If we weren't so bored, we wouldn't play with the Ghost Mark clan, leading to their rebellion. As they had been waiting for Shi Yan in boredom, they came to the Ghost Mark clan to see if they could use their secret technique to contact the Demogorgon statues in the first demon area. However, when they arrived at the shady firmament old mound, they found something abnormal. Not only Cassidy was resurrected, but many clansmen of the Ghostmark clan had also become stronger. Members of the Ghostmark clan had used the Ein-written charm scripture to convert heaven and earth energy into mysterious Ein-chi to supply to the shriveled clansmen, making them vigorous again. The heaven and earth energy was a limited source. The two leaders of the demon clan were afraid that if they let the Ghostmark clan convert natural energy massively like that, they wouldn't have enough energy to open the first demon area. So, they attacked the Ghostmark clan immediately to erase this threat. In the next moment, an immense will spread out from the Ein-written charm scripture. At that moment, they realized the scripture had changed and revived the patriarch of the Ghostmark clan. Although his power had been recovered just a little, they had to struggle hard. That fight ended with Bao Ao and Jieji's defeat. They returned immediately. Not long after that, the 4 clans had joined hands and started to attack them. As the patriarch of the Ghostmark clan knew it would take a lot of energy to open the first demon area, he had led the other 3 clans to attack the demon clan. They all knew what they should do to prevent the demon clan and save time for their clans. If Shi Yan had broken through the true god realm in half a month, the demon clan wouldn't have suffered such a significant loss. That was why Jieji got mad at him. Shi Yan rubbed his nose as he felt a little bit embarrassed. As Jieji urged him, he didn't delay and walked to them. Under his feet were the extremely complicated demonic patterns. They looked like an unceasing, exquisite sketch drawn by the Almighty. Although Shi Yan had knowledge of formations, even after scrutinizing the formation for a while, he couldn't understand any of its subtle features. The magic characteristics of this place had surpassed his knowledge. Where should I drop the blood? And how many drops does it require? Shi Yan put on a bitter face. I've just condensed the altar, which consumed a lot of my immortal demon soul. You've given me a high price. 3 drops is enough. Bao Ao glared at him and chuckled. Of course, we know the immortal demon blood's precious. We won't trap you. Yeah. I forgot to tell you that if you can complete replacing your blood, you can increase your body's competence tremendously. At the same time, you can receive the ancient power of the Demogorgon seal. And, besides this stuff, you can restore the real body of the Undying demon tribe, the immortal body. Shi Yan was struck, feeling dizzy. Replace blood? How? You have the immortal demon blood in your body, which carries the infinite refined energy. Use it to replace your own blood. Only the clansman with the Demogorgon blood can do that. You're that sort of clansman, you lucky be *starred, Bao Ao smilingly said. Shi Yan got stirred up, but then he went begrudgingly. Was it a piece of cake to condense the immortal demon blood? Each drop was extremely precious. Although he had the mysterious martial spirit to condense it, he had created just a little number of drops until now. Building the soul sacrificial altar had taken half of the drops he had. At this moment, he had to spend 3 more, leaving only 10 drops stored in his body then. Using the immortal demon blood to replace all the blood running in his vessels was a construction that would be many times tougher than building the utmost 8 purgatory city. He felt his scalp tingling thinking about it. However, the benefit he could have was quite desirable. Shi Yan couldn't help but dream about it. Maybe if I can kill enough for the mysterious martial spirit to refine the energy, I can do that, right? Shi Yan thought. Chapter 697, Desolate Deathly Stillness. Chapter 697, Desolate Deathly Stillness. 3 drops of immortal demon blood fell from Yan's fingertip onto the subtle demon drawings underneath his feet. A dazzling red halo expanded from the patterns under their feet. That massive formation sparkled while flows of black flame, which were as viscous as a flaming liquid, pouring on the demon patterns. At that moment, the patterns were filled with energy, which activated some mysterious formations. The strange formation arrayed with demon patterns and drawings seemed to become the giant, gloomy mouth of a beast, releasing a powerful suction force. Shortly, all the demon chi in the Hall of Demogorgon was drawn. The suction force from the patterns raked through the place, covering everywhere. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The massive pillars in the hall trembled as a giant passage that was drawing energy appeared above their heads. An immense, torrential energy wave shot out from the energy passage towards the Grace mainland. Just like a powerful pump, it started to suck the heaven and earth energy of the Grace mainland. Instantaneously, all the experts in the Grace mainland could sense the change of heaven and earth energy. They discolored in fright as fear rose in their hearts. Leaders of the other 4 clans in the other corners of the second demon area soared up to the sky, flying towards an abyss in the horizon where a massive energy passage had just appeared. Their faces grimaced. They understood that the operation to open the first demon area of the demon clan had begun. No one hesitated. Leaders and their hotshots of the 4 clans dashed towards the general direction of the Demogorgon Hall. They had to stop the others at any cost. Yan looked at the lively patterns under his feet, which were like a surging sea. It was seething while the patterns were like sponges taking in energy. It has started. Bao Ao was stirred up. He kneeled down above the patterns, looking at the 7 Demogorgon statues respectfully while humming in demon language. The 7 Demogorgon statues diffused turbulent waves of energy with the abundant heaven and earth energy. When that energy reached the acme, a faint light appeared under their feet. The faint light enlarged gradually until a glorious 5-colored light passage emerged. A colorful light was moving dazzlingly in the passage that hindered people from seeing what was happening inside. The 7 Demogorgon statues trembled, falling precisely into that light passage before the Hall of Demogorgon collapsed. They disappeared instantly. "Quick!" Jieji shouted. "All clansmen line up and get in orderly. Do not panic." Hearing his shout, members of the demon clan urged their beasts, disappearing into the light passage one by one. "We should move." Bao Ao glared at Yan, shouting amidst the mess of falling rocks. "The hall will be destroyed soon. Then it will blast. It should also be the time the 4 tribes get here. We have to get in before the explosion happens. Or else, we'll get hurt badly." Yan wasn't familiar with this place. Of course, he would follow the others' words. He ran after Jieji, entering the light passage. Members of the demon clan rode their beasts and retreated from this place under Bao Ao's direction. Bao Ao suddenly paled, shouting in fear. "Hurry up! Move quickly!" He could feel the formidable energy fluctuation of living beings outside the Hall of Demogorgon. This meant the experts of the 4 clans had arrived. At this moment, massive pillars that supported the Hall of Demogorgon collapsed. Pieces of rock scattered everywhere. Many big chunks of rock, that were as big as a windmill, brought with them a massive energy of impact. If they hit someone, they would smash him or her into a pulp of meat. Although the demon clan's members all had sturdy bodies, they would still not be able to endure such damage. Hence, Bao Ao was worried a lot. Under his shouts and screams, clansmen of the demon clan took their beasts and stormed into the passage. When the last demon and his beast disappeared, Bao Ao shouted and turned into a black beam, disappearing into that light passage. In that fraction of time, the Hall of Demogorgon blasted. Pieces of rock scattered everywhere. Demon chi condensed and exploded, generating tremendous tremors. Corpse Chief, Kanti, the Een-written charm scripture, and a distorted dim halo appeared above the energy passage in the Hall of Demogorgon. No one stood behind them, or no one could catch up with their speed, to be exact. 2 people and the 2 magical objects felt the blast under their feet right when they appeared above the Demogorgon Hall. The 4 were a little bit hesitant. They didn't care about the strong explosion, plunging into the ruins of the hall. As the two pagans, a scripture, and a dim halo descended on the Demogorgon hall, they seemed to trigger some furious barrier. The explosion under their feet became fiercer, and the shockwaves dizzied these people. Canty and Corpse Chief got hurt differently from that blast. They had to consume a big part of the energy to maintain their immortal bodies. The unwritten charm scripture seemed to be affected by the explosion, as it was bouncing and trembling disorderly. However, the dim halo wasn't affected. It plunged through the ruined hall, flying towards the light passage. As Canty and Corpse Chief saw the dim halo descending, they immediately followed it with their best speed. The unwritten charm scripture trembled, swaying in the air to avoid the furious explosion center. It was the last one descending. As it recognized the formation was open completely, it had no method to stop it anymore. The scripture had no choice but to follow Candy's team to get into the light passage. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Not long after the four entered the passage, the Hall of Demogorgon collapsed completely. Big blocks of rock covered the place, leaving only a slit from where heaven and earth energy was seeping through to the passage. Comoros and the three Yama Kings arrived later. Seeing the ruins of the Hall of Demogorgon under the 1,000 meters tall pile of debris, they didn't know how to get into the place. How about you guys? You know how to get into the earth well. Shouldn't you be able to dig a passage? Comoros looked at Corpse Mount and Corpse Sea with hope. As long as you can make a passage, we can all get there. Corpse Mount and Corpse Sea tried for a while and then shook their heads. Corpse Mount then said, "The 5 elements are disordered now. We can't get in. If we want to go there, we have to remove the 10,000 meters of rock." After he said that, the others turned grim, but they couldn't utter a word. "We should wait and see," Hei Tian contemplated for a while then continued. "Our leaders got there earlier. I think if anything happens, they can solve it. And if our leaders can't solve the matter, even if we get there, we still won't be able to do anything." Hearing him, the others could only nod begrudgingly. They stopped all operations, waiting in silence above the Hall of Demogorgon. The gloomy sky hung above the dark ground. Deathly desolate, deep chasms scattered here and there. It was the world Shurian saw at first glance. There was neither demon chi nor any heaven and earth energy in this place. This world only had a rough, uneven ground, with scattered dried bones everywhere. Those bones belonged to the members of the demon clan and giant beasts. Shurian could see so many dried bones in this world, which seemed about to be gone with the wind at any minute. Shurian, Bao Ao, Jiaji, and the hotshots of the demon clan were all stunned on seeing the background of the first demon area. They were petrified, not knowing what to say. Looking at the horizon, they could see some mountain ranges jutted up to the sky, hiding in the dark, while the endless darkness occupied the further areas. There was no life. This place was even more desolate and barren than the second demon area. It wasn't as beautiful as they had imagined. And they couldn't see the Demogorgon statues. The 7 Demogorgon statues from the second demon area were placed in front of them in the order they had been in the Hall of Demogorgon. It seemed their functions hadn't been changed, and the demon clan's inheritance was still there. Is it the Holy Land you've yearned for? The first demon area? Shurian contemplated for a while and then asked Bao Ao gingerly. "We've spent 1/3 of the Grace mainland's heaven and earth energy to open the first demon area for this." Bao Ao was startled, but he couldn't answer. People would always imagine the best things. Bao Ao and Jiaji were the members of the younger generation of Demon Clan who had never experienced the Antiquity War. So, the things they knew about the first demon area had stopped at 10,000 years ago. Dozens of thousands of years ago, the first demon area had been filled with demon chi. It had so many hotshots of the demon clan and the top Demogorgon statues, where they could receive the strongest inheritance. They had the ancient experts to teach them the power Upanishad and give them the treasures of the demon clan. Those memories were their assumptions and the motivation that had urged them to open the first demon area. Today, this place was barren and desolate. Looking at the dried bones on the ground and the scarce energy, all members of the demon clan gawked, as they felt they were deceived. "We haven't explored the place yet. This place should have something we haven't known." "I'm sure," Bao Ao seemed to try to persuade himself to not believe in what they had seen here. He shouted, "Follow me. We should check this place out." Many clansmen of the demon clan felt dispirited. They stooped as despair filled their hearts, riding their beasts and following their masters. Jie wasn't foul-mouthed anymore, as he knew that if he showed his dispirited mood at this moment, it would affect all of his men. He talked to his people in a calm and relaxed voice, saying that it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Shi kept silent the whole time. He knew talking was no use in this case. At least, they had to know why the first demon area had turned into this current appearance. Once they reached the thing that looked like the big mountain, everybody screamed in fright. Chapter 698, Hope of Dawn in the Middle of the Ruins. Chapter 698, Hope of Dawn in the Middle of the Ruins. It was not a mountain range. They were the ruins of 7 collapsed Demogorgon statues. Each statue was as imposing as a high mountain. Although they had collapsed, they were almost 1,000 meters tall. Situated between the Demogorgon statues was a group of temples. Those temples were ruined and desolate, no longer having the ambience they used to have. Skeletons of demons and beasts scattered here and there in the temples. As Shi, Bao Ao, and Jie reached this place, they were silent while looking at the ruins, as if they didn't know what to say to feel better in this situation. There was no beam of energy surging on the massive 7 Demogorgon statues. There was nothing mysterious now. Apparently, these statues no longer functioned. According to Bao Ao, the top 7 Demogorgon statues in this place could absorb the power Upanishad and the knowledge of the 7 antiquity Demogorgons from the foreign land, which was a miracle. Bao Ao's group was persistent to come here with the hope that they could receive the guidance of the antiquity Demogorgons, or they could receive their inheritance at least. With this inheritance, they could break through to the King God realm, which could help them find the way to escape, perhaps. It was too bad that the 7 Demogorgon statues had all been damaged. They lied in the ruins of the temples without any waves of energy around them. Bao Ao kept quiet for a long time and then asked his men, "Get in the temples. Check everything there. If you find anything abnormal, report it to me immediately." Jie gave his men the same order. For the time being, members of the demon clan rode their beasts, jumping into the temples and starting their quest with anxiety. Everyone was worried and suspicious, but no one dared to utter a word. They didn't dare, but Shi did. After hesitating for a while, he frowned and then spoke up. "This place seems to have had a purge." Bao Ao and Jie discolored abruptly. Light shot out from his eyes while fear rose in their hearts. How could they not notice that? Dried bones were scattered everywhere in the vast first demon area. There was no life to be found. And those were bones of the demon clan's members and their beasts, not of any other clans. If a war had happened here, this place should have had bones of other clans as well. That's why Shi said purge, which also implied that the ones who carried the operation had the ability to clean all the demon clan's clansmen and beasts in the first demon area. Moreover, they had retreated intact with triumph. This conclusion had struck Bao Ao and Jie severely, dragging their hearts into a deep abyss. They didn't want to believe it was true. Whatever era it was, the demon clan was always strong. Although they had had to hide in the demon areas during the rise of human clan that year, they had never received such a significant loss. They couldn't imagine who had such supernatural powers to carry out a purge on the first demon area, their holy land. It seemed all the ancient hotshots of the clan were eradicated. This related to the dignity of the demon clan. If it were true, it would be a terrible humiliation to their entire race, as it dirted their glory from the past. That was why Bao Ao and Jie couldn't say anything. They didn't want to believe in what their eyes saw. The two then released a powerful soul magnetic field, covering the entire temples to search for energy fluctuation of living beings or something abnormal. Too bad. No matter how hard they tried, the result was the same. They didn't get anything. Shortly, their men came back, shaking their heads in distress, indicating that they found nothing. This group of large temples had no barriers or formations with a streak of energy left. This meant that they would never find what had happened here. Each demon returned from a vain search was glum. They could see the truth, and a deep despair rose in their hearts. Who? Who was so heartless to kill all members of the demon clan in the first demon area? No one remained. They had even destroyed the 7 Demogorgon statues, cutting their path of further development. All members had a big suspicion in their hearts, but they were helpless, unable to untie this knot. What should we do? Shiryen was worried, asking the other two. If it's the result, I think we all have the answer. Perhaps we should leave this place and return to the Grace mainland to continue cultivating. It's the right thing to do. It's tough, Bao Ao forced a smile, shaking his head. Heaven and earth energy of the Grace mainland is maybe enough to facilitate only 1 or 2 King God Realm warriors. Perhaps you don't know it yet. When a warrior is breaking through the King God Realm, he has to collect thick heaven and earth energy sufficiently. If the energy isn't enough, even if he has reached the realm, he will definitely fail. At this moment, the heaven and earth energy there has been consumed by 1/3. To restore the patriarch of the Ghostmark clan, it requires half of the remaining energy. We don't have many opportunities. Shiryen was struck. Their situation was that alarming. I'm telling you, Xian Ming, the lord of the monster clan in the perpetual night forest, could reach level 10 already. He's patient and not taking the heaven and earth energy to break through because he's worrying that once he does that, he will speed up the draining speed of the energy in the Grace mainland. At that time, his monster clan will have to bear disasters. That monster has the god's domain already. He has almost comprehended the mysteries of the King God realm. If he wants, he can break through easily, said Bao Ao, looking deep into Shiryan's eyes. Shiryan's countenance became grimaced. Xian Ming, the patriarch of the Ghostmark clan, and that guy from the Dark clan, they all need a tremendous amount of heaven and earth energy to support them. At this moment, energy in the Grace mainland's only enough for one of the 3. No matter who breaks through or recovers, we won't have even the soup to eat. Not to mention breaking through the King God realm, I'm afraid we can't even continue cultivating. Bao Ao shook his head and sighed. He felt begrudging and distressed at the same time. He didn't know which path they should take for now. Shiryen didn't say a word. He stood there emotionlessly as he was trying to squeeze his brain for a solution. He realized that no matter how hard he tried, this situation wouldn't be overturned. Suddenly, he remembered the blood vein ring. From the information he got about Lao Luo, the blood vein ring wasn't something that belonged to the Grace mainland. Its previous owner had subdued Lao Luo, the one who used to be invincible in the Grace mainland, in the foreign land. So, he must be an absolute existence in the universe. Although Shiryen didn't know why the blood vein ring had fallen to this land, he could confirm that it would never want to see him die that way slowly. Without the heaven and earth energy, it would be hard for him to advance. The amount of energy required to reach the King God realm was intimidatingly formidable. He pondered for a while, and then sent his thought to the blood vein ring, explaining his difficult situation and wishing for instructions. The immense rainbow-like light overflowed from the blood vein ring, as if the ring spirit was considering something. That colorful light extended from Shiryen, covering the temples and the 7 collapsed Demogorgon statues. Bao Ao and Jieji were startled, looking at him bewilderedly. Shiryen wasn't bothered. He gathered his mind, essence chi, and soul, waiting silently inside the blood vein ring. Swoosh! A flow of sharp and enormous energy gushed out from the blood vein ring. The remaining immortal demon blood drops in Shiryan's body instantly shot out from his body, lining up in front of him. Drops of ruby immortal demon blood revolved in the air, carrying the tremendous blood chi. Under the guidance of some power, they divided into 7 parts, flying to the core of the 7 Demogorgon statues. At the same time, the negative energy stored in each of his acupuncture points was drawn out, turning into beams of gray energy that shot towards the 7 Demogorgon statues. It seemed they were condensing the vessels for the 7 Demogorgon statues. It was a miraculous scene. Shiryan's eyes brightened. He could vaguely feel a gossamer-like aura from the 7 Demogorgon statues. Bao Ao and Jieji shivered in fright, their faces disbelieving, looking at Shiryen with astonishment. All members of the demon clan were stunned. They were gazing at Shi Yan as though they were watching ghosts. They all could see that the ring on his hand was transforming the 7 Demogorgon statues. PFFF. Shi Yan spurted blood from his mouth. He turned pale immediately. This was the sign of significant blood loss. At the same time, his negative energy had been drawn completely. Countless beams of negative energy had been sent to the 7 Demogorgon statues. Suddenly, this supply was cut off. They could feel a energy fluctuation, as thin as the spider thread on the 7 Demogorgon statues. 7 flows of weak energy shot out from the core of the 7 Demogorgon statues, gathering at one spot. A small door was generated in the sky above the temples. Bao Ao and Jiaji were dumbstruck, gawking at the 7 Demogorgon statues. They were astounded on seeing that the 7 Demogorgon statues seemed to be healed due to the strange energy from Shi Yan. It seemed, if Shi Yan had enough energy, these statues could be restored wholly. Unfortunately, Shi Yan's energy wasn't enough, so it couldn't reach such a level. However, they were still thrilled because of the small door above the temples, although they didn't know where it would take them. Rainbow-like light on the blood vein ring ceased and disappeared. The ring's spirit seemed to be exhausted. It became quiet, as if it would take a relatively long time to restore. However, it was enough for Shi Yan. He knew that the blood vein ring could receive his thought and had shown him the way to survive. He didn't know where that door led to, but he knew that there was a solution behind that door. And whether it was the solution for his matter or for all the clans in the Grace mainland, only God knew. Bao Ao, as you dare to open the first demon area on your own, your clan will be destroyed. Right at this moment, a feeble but melodious voice came from the written charm scripture. The scripture swayed and showed itself. A gloomy shadow also appeared behind it, followed by Kanti and Corpse Chief. They stood at the 4 corners of the temples. Chapter 699, Meteorolite Sea. Chapter 699, Meteorolite Sea. Kanti of the Dark Devil Clan, Corpse Chief of the Corpse Clan, the Patriarch of the Ghostmark Clan, and the Creature of the Dark Clan with the Spirit Ghost Flame were the strongest 4 existences of the Grace mainland. Right now, they all were present in this desolate area. They had chased after the Demon Clan to this place despite the formidable explosion. Each of them had suffered different levels of damage. This time, they came here to ask the Demon Clan to pay a big price. As Bao Ao and Jieji saw these 4, they were astounded. They didn't expect that those people were so stubborn. They knew they had no chance to overturn the situation once the first demon area was opened, but they still got here, which was beyond the Demon Clan's estimation. Why do you need to do that? Bao Ao frowned, but he seemed not worried at all. Strong warriors of our Demon Clan are all here. Jieji and I can stop Kanti and Corpse Chief. Zenith, you haven't restored your power yet. You can't recover the part you consumed. It's just a dream if you guys want to kill our Demon Clan. Don't make both sides bear damages. Nobody can gain anything in the end then. Bao Ao's words weren't meant to threaten them. Jieji's and Bao Ao's power was intimidating, which wasn't less than Kanti's and Corpse Chief's. They could even gain the upper hand. That creature of the Dark Clan hadn't had a body yet. It just depended on so many spirits and wandering ghosts, so it wasn't enough to kill Bao Ao and Jieji. Bao Ao and Jiaji were afraid of Zenith of the Ghostmark Clan the most. Anyway, Zenith hadn't had recovered fully yet. Facing many hotshots and beasts of the Demon Clan, he couldn't gain the upper hand. As the heaven and earth energy on the Grace mainland was about to run out, if Zenith continued to consume his energy, his recovery would be much more difficult. If he didn't have the competence of the King God realm, using his body's power to escape this continent would result in his death. Thus, if they wanted to fight until both sides got damaged severely, it wouldn't benefit anyone. Kanti and Corpse Chief quieted down. However, they were still hostile towards Bao Ao and Jieji. Their eyes didn't show the emotions that humans should have, only the cold murderous intention. A faint laughter came from the written charm scripture. Bao Ao, is it the Holy Land in your hearts which could solve the matters of your sorrows and your clan's future? This is just a desolate area without a beam of energy. The 7 Demogorgon statues are all damaged. Do you really think that it's still your hope? Bao Ao pointed at the door the blood vein ring had generated from Shi Yan's immortal demon blood while smiling. We still have hope. Shi Yan stood there, hesitating as he was pondering if he wanted to get in there or not. He didn't know where that door would lead them to, but it was the solution the blood vein ring had given him. This exit was created by the energy of the 7 Demogorgon statues stimulated by his immortal demon blood. Shi Yan wasn't so sure whether it was an effective solution or not. Kanti and Corpse Chief looked at the door, their eyes brighter. Where does it lead to? Zenith had seen the door from the written charm scripture. Hearing Bao Ao mention the door, he seized the chance and asked. Ghosts know. Bao Ao beamed a forced smile. But I think it should be a solution. What do you think about getting in there and exploring instead of spending time quarreling here? Kanti and Corpse Chief kept silent. That gloomy halo didn't say anything either. Zenith also kept his mouth shut, as if he were considering Bao Ao's suggestion. While standing in front of that door, Shi Yan had constantly checked the energy fluctuation from the 7 Demogorgon statues. Gradually, he found that the magical beam of energy maintaining that small door was getting weaker from over time. He sensed for a while and his face paled. He said quickly, this door can't be maintained for a long time. It will disappear due to lack of energy. Pausing for a while, Shi Yan suddenly shouted. I don't care if you want to get in there or not, I gotta go now. Then, his body flashed like a dark light, disappearing into that small door. At the moment he disappeared, a shaking energy wave transmitted to the door, and the halo the 7 Demogorgon statues were projecting got weakened by a little bit. Everybody observed carefully. Seeing that change, they were startled as they suddenly got it. After one person walked through the door, the energy that maintained the door would weaken by a little bit. In other words, the energy supplied to this door wasn't enough to let many people get through the door. After each entry, the energy would reduce. Once this energy was drained, the door would disappear. No one knew what stood behind that door. However, since this place was the first demon area, and that door was created by the last beam of energy from the top 7 Demogorgon statues, of course, it wasn't just a normal door. As the Grace mainland has come to the end of its energy cycle, all clans understood this situation and were trying to find the way out for their clans, to seek a chance to survive. Perhaps, behind the door was a solution, or maybe it was perilous. But at least they knew they had a possibility. Bao Ao and Jieji were a bit hesitant. They exchanged looks, then dashed towards the door. They disappeared into the door after Shi Yan. The energy supporting that door got weakened the second time. If it continued this way, the door would disappear not long afterward. Bo Rua and Gu Disi exchanged looks, then harshly stormed forward, turning into 2 beams of light and disappearing. Corpse Chief and Kanta kept silent for seconds and then shot out. Right at the moment they started to move, the written charm scripture and the dim halo also flew towards that door. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. For light silhouettes disappeared. Crack, crack, crack. Shattering sounds echoed from the 7 Demogorgon statues as they started to crack into smaller pieces rumblingly. At this moment, as their energy had been used up, that door was dispelled. Many members of the demon clan were dumbstruck on their mounts. Many of Jieji's subordinates stormed to the door, but they couldn't find anything. They were all grim, as regret rose in their hearts. It was a vast space with many meteorolites hovering in the dark, starry sky. Those massive meteorolites suspended in the void motionlessly. Each meteorolite was as big as an entire island in the Grace mainland. They were bare and smooth, without a single grass. Those meteorolites had many shapes. Some were connected with each other, but most of them were separated, hovering still in the void. They couldn't see the end of the space, in which uncountable meteorolites floated still. Shi Yan stood on one of the meteorolites, which wasn't small or big. His face was grimaced and darkened, as he was urging powers to cover his body. A fire flower sparkled out of Shi Yan's body. The scorching flame slowly arose, keeping his body comfortable. The meteorite under his feet was dark brown and rigid. There was no heaven and earth aura or air. This place was several times colder than the cold, bitter land. When Shiryen appeared here, his body was stiffened, as if even his blood was frozen. His energy oozed, struggling slowly inside his body. Breathing was just a routine of warriors at his realm. It wasn't an essential condition to survive. The energy in their bodies was the root to protect their perpetual lives. Shortage of air wasn't important, and low gravity wasn't a matter. The most horrible thing was that this place didn't have any heaven and earth energy. This place was cold with radiation and unknown dangers. There were dozens of giant meteorolites above his head, under his feet, in front of him, and behind him. Meteorolites were everywhere. The nearest meteorolite was around 1,000 miles away from him. In this dark space, energy tornadoes seemed to hide everywhere. Such kind of energy could even shake his soul. This place looked like a Meteorolite Sea. Countless meteorolites were scattered disorderly and chaotically, seeming to hide tremendous dangers. In front of Shiryan's eyes, he often saw explosions in the farthest place naked eyes could see. The shock waves of those explosions transmitted from unknown distance and created formidable impacts that were like ferocious aura attacking people, cracking their hearts. Under his feet was a formation built of hundreds of giant bones. That formation was obviously broken, as Shiryen could see many broken bones. There was no energy moving anymore. Those bones, which still had energy, shimmered faintly. Not long afterward, Bao Ao, Jietji, Bo Rua, Gu Desi, and Kanti appeared one after another. Until Corpse Chief, the last one who emerged from the bone formation, arrived. The bones that still had energy shattered immediately. They exploded, leaving only dust. Under the energy impact, all bones turned into dust. In this weightless environment, bone dust was like sand grains scattering into the immense darkness. Bao Ao and Jietji appeared one by one. They immediately urged their power to protect their bodies from the bitter cold and created the power armor to avoid the unknown radiation. Kanti and Corpse Chief weren't an exception. Zenith, who was hiding in the Een-written charm scripture, seemed to mobilize his energy too. An immense, gray mist engulfed the Een-written charm scripture, just like a cloak, covering the scripture. However, the gloomy halo wasn't affected. No energy wave rippled from it. After 8 people from the first demon area arrived, they hadn't said anything yet as they were quietly observing the situation, dumbstruck. There was no heaven and earth energy to be supplied. Dangers were waiting everywhere, and they needed to use energy to protect their bodies continually in this cold, dark, vast area, where energy tornadoes were hiding everywhere. This place was much more dangerous than the first demon area. Everything in their sight was perilously dangerous. "I think we've escaped the Grace mainland," Shiryen said after being frightened for a while. "This is the foreign land you've mentioned. However, our fortune seems not good, as we couldn't find the place with abundant heaven and earth energy. Perhaps this is where we bury our bodies." Everybody fell into silence. Chapter 700, Volunteer. Chapter 700, Volunteer. This place should be the foreign land, but it neither had the sun, moon, stars, nor usable heaven and earth energy. This environment was too extreme. It wasn't easy to survive in such a Meteorolite Sea, let alone cultivating or breaking to the higher realms. It was just a dream here. The hope in their hearts collapsed directly as soon as they arrived. They had a feeling that they could never see the dawn again. For the time being, everybody kept silent. After a while, Kanti of the Dark Spirit clan suddenly shouted with his gloomy face. "Bao Ao, is this the place of hope you said? You've brought me to a dead road." Corpse Chief, Zenith inside the Een-written charm scripture, and the creature with the Een spirit ghost flame, got angry. Energy rippled from them, as if they wanted to take back justice. Bao Ao and Jietji couldn't snap back. Looking at the Meteorolite Sea in front of them, which was even more desolate than the first demon area, they smiled miserably, as they had no solution. "If we start a fight in this place, no one could get any benefits." Shiryen glared at the Een-written charm scripture, talking faintly. "Without the energy to supply, when we fight, we can't refill our power. I think we will die earlier." Even if the true God Realm warriors used the top-grade essence crystals in the Grace mainland to refill their power, it was like putting salt into the ocean. Although Shi Yan had many top-grade essence crystals in his storage ring, if they battled, those crystals couldn't supply the energy used by even one strike. If they ran out of energy, it was impossible to survive in this perilous area. His words worked. The four people calmed down their intention of attacking them. Can we go back? Zenith's feeble voice came from the written charm scripture. The Grace mainlands our homeland. Although its energy was about to reach the end, at least we still have some. It's much better than this place. If we can return, I won't care about what your demon clan's done anymore. Bao Ao and Jiaji beamed a forced smile while shaking their heads, as they had no way to come back. Shi Yan snorted. The bone formation has exploded into dust. How could we get back? Don't talk nonsense. Kid, it's all because of you. You're Shi Yan, right? You weren't nice at all in the Grace mainland. You killed my fellows. If you provoke me, even if I have to waste my energy, I will still kill you. Zenith shouted from the written charm scripture. Waves of soul fluctuation surged vehemently from the written charm scripture like a soul tornado, engulfing Shi Yan. Shi Yan didn't change his face, but he was shivering inside. He could feel the sacrificial altar in his head seeming to be urged, as if it wanted to get out of his head. Zenith had reached the King God realm, but his energy had been lost significantly. That was why he couldn't take the upper hand in the battle with Bao Ao and Jiaji. Bao Ao and Jiaji were both at the third sky of True God realm, with one step in the King God realm. Before Zenith could recover his competence, he still would have to struggle hard. However, it wasn't a big deal to fight with Shi Yan. Zenith, you can try. I'm not sure who will die first. Jiaji grinned fiendishly, his face crazy. This man was inborn savage. He would never stand any threat. Bao Ao kept silent, but fighting was seething in his dark pupils. He looked like he would burst out insanely if someone provoked him. The demon clan was combative. It was the wildest and most ferocious clan among the big clans. Sometimes, even if they knew it would be harmful, they would drag the opponents to death together. As Zenith saw Bao Ao and Jiaji protect Shi Yan, he was enraged. However, he didn't dare to call for a battle at this moment, so he kept his mouth shut. What to do then? Corpse Chief was calm. He spoke up when he saw the others were quiet now. Who knows how to get out of this place? Staying here isn't a good solution. We have no idea about this place, and we are consuming our energy every second. We can't endure for a long time. We need to find the exit quickly. Bao Ao shrugged, swinging his arms begrudgingly. I have no idea. This place is a Meteorolite Sea. Seems like there's something outside the Meteorolite Sea, preventing the stars from entering this place. If we can cross this Meteorolite Sea, perhaps we can find the way out. Pondering for a while, Shi Yan suddenly said. However, I'm afraid of dangers hiding behind those meteorolites. I don't know what would happen if we do that. Nonsense. Zenith couldn't help but scold. Who doesn't recognize the dangers in between the meteorolites? Your words are useless. If you have the guts and you aren't afraid of death, you can try first. Let's see if you can cross it. Shi Yan got angry as he harumphed. If you have a good solution, I want to hear if you don't mind. Zenith didn't say anything. We can only cross the Meteorolite Sea. We have no choice and we can't stay here for a long time. If we've consumed much of our energy, it would be harder to cross the sea, the dim halo suddenly said, after having been silent since the beginning. I can go there first. If it's too dangerous, I can always come back. He paused for a while and then continued. You, that human kid, you come with me. I don't have a body. I'm afraid I won't be able to sense dangers. If you go with me, we can see the dangers between the meteorolites clearer. Canty, Corpse Chief, and Zenith got cheered up and nodded continually. In spirit, your suggestion is not bad. We agree, said Zenith. He didn't know what the name of the other was, but since he had the In Spirit ghost flame, he always called him In Spirit. The other had no objection as he accepted this addressing. Canty and Corpse Chief nodded to show their agreement. No! Jieji suddenly laughed evilly. Good calculation, In Spirit. You think we don't know you want Shi Yan's heaven flames? Aren't you still waiting for such a good chance to snatch Shiryan's heaven flame to increase your power? Bao Ao beamed a faint smile. His attitude was clear. He didn't agree. This way would benefit us all. Zenith couldn't help but talk from the written charm scripture. Bao Ao, Ji, if you don't agree, don't blame us for having no mercy. This way doesn't work, that way doesn't work. And you have no solution. Hurry up, or don't blame us later on. Ian's spirit has volunteered, so of course, you guys have to find someone to cooperate with him. We won't let you take advantage of us, Kanti shouted. If Shiryan can't go, you demon clan should send another one to try the dangers in between those meteorolites. Send someone to replace him. We won't have any objection then. After Kanti said that, they immediately divided into two sides. Shiryan and the demon clan was one team, and the other four formed the other team. According to him, Ian's spirit from their team had volunteered to go, so the demon clan should send someone to survey this area too. If Shiryan didn't want to go, one from Bao Ao, Jiaji, Bo Rua, or Gudisi had to go with him. This was to be fair, they said. Bao Ao and Jiaji wanted to say something, but Shiryan spoke up. I have no problem with that. He turned around, looking at the two leaders of Demon Clan and chuckled. Don't worry. I think I can survive those energy tornadoes. What we worry isn't only the tornadoes. We're worried about someone else. Jiaji put on his savage face, looking at Ian's spirit. Some beings are more dangerous than the energy tornadoes. You shouldn't take responsibility recklessly. These folks can trap you badly, you know. Normally, soul-class living forms could be immune to almost all kinds of dangers. Although Ian's spirit looked generous as he volunteered to take risks, he surely had some dark schemes. Otherwise, he wouldn't want to drag Shiryan with him. It's all right. I think people should be calm and honest in the given situation. Shiryan grinned and didn't wait for Bao Ao and Jiaji to talk more. He said abruptly, I'm going now. I'll wait for you in there. You have to go, okay? Then, before Bao Ao and Jiaji could stop him, he turned into a beam of light, shooting into the dark, cold void in front of them like a meteor. As soon as he got into the void, he disappeared immediately, and his living energy fluctuation seemed to vanish into thin air too. The hotshots standing on the meteorolite couldn't sense him anymore. Everybody was startled as fear arose in their hearts. They were scared of the areas between those meteorolites even more. Even though Ian's spirit had said that he wanted to pioneer that area, seeing the anomaly of space, he regretted his decision immediately. He lingered, not wanting to go anymore. Bao Ao and Jiaji put on a cold visage. Evil light sparkled in their eyes, looking at that dim halo. Kanti, Corpse Chief, and the written charm scripture also looked at him, as if they were urging him to move. Ian's spirit had to go. He swayed at his spot for a while before gingerly flying towards the direction Shiryan left. At this moment, everybody could see bunches of Ian's spirits and wandering ghosts appearing from that dim halo. They were showing their fangs and claws, which could tingle people's scalp. After surveying the place, you should hurry to come back. We will discuss and find the solution. Zenith pretended to be nice, giving advice. Then, he continued to talk calmly. Be careful. This foreign land's dangerous. Don't fall into any traps. Ian's spirit cursed under his breath. Anyway, he had no choice but to follow Shiryan. Bao Ao's team exchanged looks. They quieted down, gazing at the cold, dark area in front of their eyes, releasing the soul consciousness to sense their journey in vain. Everybody felt more insecure. As anxiety rose in their hearts, their eyes got distressed, thinking that they were too careless in entering the foreign land this time. Chapter 701, Heaven Flames Fierce Battle. Chapter 701, Heaven Flames Fierce Battle. In the cold darkness where Shiryan couldn't see his own fingers, he floated lonely while his nerves were tense. He didn't dare to relax for even a fraction of a second. Flows of his soul consciousness were like the pure cotton threads releasing from his sea of consciousness. They were like invisible beams, scattering around to perceive the situation just like his senses. This place was cold and quiet. He found no energy waves of living beings. Even though he hadn't approached the energy storm ahead of him, he was still cautious. Energy surged through his entire body, creating layers of thick energy armor, enveloping him completely. The energy waves transmitted in front of him were extremely furious. They were like countless exploding, twisted energy halo. Dangers were everywhere, without a specific rule. There was no way to leave this place safely. The meteorolite he had arrived on first was out of his sight at this moment. Using naked eyes, he couldn't find any of its traces. Without gravity, his speed wasn't held back. It was much faster than when he was in the Grace mainland. His body moved agilely like the willow catkin. He felt like some powers were supporting him at this moment. A wisp of eerie green light appeared behind him, and energy fluctuations of living beings became clearer. It was the creature of the Dark Clan, the one that had absorbed the Een spirit ghost flame. He finally came. The other didn't hurry to approach Shi Yan, as he was bobbing and swaying 1,000 meters behind Shi Yan. It seemed the dim halo wanted to wait and see Shi Yan storming into the energy storm first, and then decide what he should do next. Shi Yan sneered in his head. He didn't care about the other, releasing a flow of soul consciousness to watch for any activities of Een spirit, as if it were his eyes. If the other acted strangely, he would attack immediately. As the situation of this place was unclear, protecting himself from being ambushed was the top priority. Shi Yan understood this rule well. Although he didn't accelerate to the fastest speed, he soon approached an energy storm. Right at this moment, he halted. As if he had a tacit understanding, Een spirit still didn't catch up with him, maintaining a distance of 1,000 meters away from him, as if he had a precise ruler with him. While Shi Yan was discreetly observing his back, he was condensing his soul consciousness. 10 flows of soul consciousness twisted with each other to form a big bunch, maintaining the deep connection with his god soul. It then slowly entered the energy storm area. Bang! Fierce tremors were transmitted to him through his soul consciousness. The beam of soul consciousness he had released was pulled and torn, making his god's soul tremble for a while, as his sea of consciousness surged abruptly. Shi Yan urged more soul consciousness from his sea of consciousness, pouring into the biggest beam to save it from being pulled into the energy storm. His god's soul felt a pain as if he had many needles pricking him at the same time. His energy became a little bit disordered. From 1,000 meters behind him, the Een spirit emitted a deep green halo. He trembled, which showed that he had its soul energy fluctuating. Shi Yan was sensitive enough to detect that. He shuddered inside, and didn't think much as he hastened to pull his flow of soul consciousness back. He wanted to change the power to deal with the attack from behind. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Dark green shadows were standing out in the dark. They were the Een spirits from the bottom of the sea in the 7-layered underworld, which were fostered by the Dark Sea and the Dark Chi. They were evil and bloodthirsty, storming towards him with their blade-like, sharp fighting will. Shi Yan turned his body abruptly. A flow of soul consciousness he hadn't retreated yet started to deal with the attack of the Een spirits. A faint halo sparkled on the storage ring as the soul-gathering pearl appeared quietly in the dark. This bead was dark green, which helped it mingle well with the darkness, and it was hard to detect its location. As those Een spirits had just been released, they hadn't reached the fastest speed yet. The soul-gathering pearl could catch them, dragging them towards it with some invisible forces. The Een spirits cried and roared. However, their sounds didn't echo in this space. An immense blue flame emerged from the dim halo, releasing magical soul fluctuations that flew towards the Een spirits. The immense blue flame had the ability to control Een spirits and wandering ghosts. It was the Een spirit ghost flame, one of the heaven flames. His power poured into the Een spirits, giving them the tremendous energy to get rid of the soul-gathering pearl's entanglement. They could cut off the bind immediately. The stagnant speed of the Een spirits suddenly accelerated. They cried and screamed furiously, attacking Shi Yan. Their blade-like sharp will had intruded Shi Yan's sea of consciousness first. His seething sea of consciousness seemed to be fragmented by this kind of will. For the time being, Shi Yan's power Upanishads seemed to be broken apart, and it was hard to gather them again. The energy fluctuation of the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame on the Heaven Flames altar section became clearer. The white jade flame suddenly engulfed the entire sea of consciousness, sweeping away the Yin spirit's will. Shi was struck. As the soul bind was lifted up, he got the control of his sea of consciousness again. Too bad, it was too late. Flows of Yin spirits dashed toward Shi like big columns at fast speed, furiously banging into his chest. This heavy attack had blown him backward. Shi discolored as he suddenly realized that he was wrong. That dim halo didn't want to bombard him, but to push him into the energy storm behind. It was obvious that the dim halo could sense the dangers inside that area. He also knew that Shi had some support as he dared to volunteer. He didn't want to fight with Shi out there, but actually used the perilous conditions inside the energy storm to wear out Shi. Although Shi knew his intention, he couldn't control his body during the fight, flinging backward and falling directly into one of the energy storms. Countless strange and distorted energies that he couldn't see enveloped him like a meat grinder. Under such fierce energies, layers of energy armors on Shi body sparked, as if someone was using many knives to slash him. Pain engulfed him, while he could only defend with his best under such furious attacks. His strong flow of soul consciousness that hadn't retreated yet from this energy storm returned to Shi body under the control of his god soul, disappearing into his sea of consciousness. He didn't dare to urge his soul consciousness one more time, so he had to mobilize the other powers in his body to protect his body and keep his mind safe and sound, to not make any mistakes. If his divine abilities were confined, his body's movement would be struggling. At that moment, even lifting his arms or legs would consume a lot more energy than usual. It was lucky that he had the tremendous powers in his body. Swaying in the powerful energy storm, he adjusted his body, giving up the idea of moving forward. He checked his powers and found that the amount of energy consumed was still acceptable. He couldn't see the dim halo or sense its exact location. He didn't know whether the other wanted to attack him or not. Shi didn't hasten. He pulled himself together and then sensed things inside the energy storm. Eventually, he found that even though the chaotic, twisted energy in this area was harsh, it wasn't as hazardous as he had thought. He still could stand it. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The fire sparked in front of him, while a dim halo appeared in the energy storm. The twisted, disordered energy here seemed to not affect him. Countless Yin spirits and ghosts constituting his dim halo didn't get agitated, as if they weren't affected a bit. Wahaha. I'm immune. Kid, getting into this storm, let's see what countermeasures you have. The dim halo sent its soul fluctuation. This guy seemed to be very confident. Well, I'm not affected, but you're enduring the attacks from the energy storm every second. In this place, you will be drained. Be obedient and hand out the heaven flames for me to eat, and I'll let you go. How does it sound? All right, Shi grinned in his mind, sending his soul fluctuation. The Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame appeared from the altar in his sea of consciousness. The white jade flame was like the death which was summoning souls, releasing an energy that could burn all kinds of souls. Dozens of Yin spirits were moving towards Shi quietly. However, when they saw the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame, they desperately wanted to avoid it, as if they had seen a ferocious ghost. A fire circle expanded from the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame at the speed that was faster than the retreat speed of the Yin spirits. When the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame touched them, the Yin spirits cracked, turning into light spots of pure energy, scattering in the energy storm and disappearing shortly. It's the Nine Serenities' soul-devouring flame. The dim halo was excited, and its soul fluctuation shot out everywhere. It's the best for me. The immense blue flame gradually emerged from the dim halo. A faint soul stayed in the center of the flame, which had a beam of the Yin spirit ghost flame's feeble soul on its forehead. This was the mark representing that he had absorbed the heaven flame. The flame that stormed out from the dim halo was urged by the faint soul inside the Yin spirit ghost flame. It was a member of the Dark Clan, who could fuse completely with heaven flame to promote the flame power to the acme. Compared to the coexisting situation of Shi and his heaven flames, this guy was more dangerous. The god soul of that dark clan's member also had 3 tiers, including the Sea of Consciousness, the particular dark river of the dark clan, and the god soul topping them all. This dark clan's member was apparently a high realm warrior. As he had the soul sacrificial altar, he had reached the true god realm, or even higher. The god soul sat neatly above the sacrificial altar, releasing a strong surging soul energy. Blue flames meandered like spiritual snakes, covering many spirits and wandering ghosts. The 9 Serenity's soul devouring flame transmitted a soul-destructive soul energy, while the white jade flames enveloped Shiryen. However, there were so many spirits and ghosts on the blue flames that the 9 Serenity's soul devouring flame couldn't burn them all shortly. Shiryen was in danger. Chapter 702, God Body? Chapter 702, God Body. Many spirits and ghosts were constituting the spiritual snakes which carried the pure heaven flame power of the spirit ghost flame. Those snakes flew swiftly and reached to Shiryen in just a blink. In just a short amount of time, the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame's white jade flame had burned down many spirits and wandering ghosts. However, there were too many of them, so the 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame couldn't burn them all instantly. The creature of the Dark Clan with its spirit ghost flame was also hurried, flying behind the spiritual snakes and dashing towards Shiryen. At this critical moment, Shiryen was held deep in the energy storm, where a significant consumption of energy was required to protect his body. He was struggling hard, revealing weaknesses here and there. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The spiritual snakes had crossed the defense of the white jade flames. Shortly, they covered him with many layers. Flows of spirit ghost flame with the spirits attached to his body. The immense blue flame tried to control his soul, which would prevent him from using his defending techniques. Boom! Fierce tremor transmitted from Shiryen's god soul, which swayed on the altar, as if some invisible forces were trying to drag it out of the altar and his body. The creature of the Dark Clan was strangely happy. It continually sent him its soul fluctuations. Kid, you're seeking death yourself. Don't blame me for making both your soul and body perish. Get out. Shiryen tried to press down the powerful vibration of his god soul. His thought flickered to connect to the heaven flame's soul sacrificial altar. The ice-cold flame, the earth flame, and the corpse vanishing flame flew out from the altar after they had received his order. The 3 heaven flames created a fire sea, covering Shiryen entirely. An icy cold aura froze the blue flame on his body instantly. Right after that, the earth flame and the corpse vanishing flame started to attack the spiritual snakes furiously. These 2 flames were using their intimidating energy to hit the snakes, making sparks scatter everywhere. In the beginning, the corpse vanishing flame hadn't wanted to cooperate with Shiryen. After it had been relocated to the sacrificial altar and received good benefits from him, the flame then became milder and accepted him. At this moment, just like the ice-cold flame and the earth flame, it had considered the heaven flame altar in Shiryen's Sea of Consciousness its home, where it could cultivate and thrive. At this moment, as someone wanted to destroy his root, the flame, of course, wouldn't tolerate it. It used all of its powers to counter the enemy without concealing anything. Among the heaven flames, the corpse vanishing flame was a peculiar one, as it had an enormous death aura. Anyway, it had the same function as the power of death and life that Shiryen had comprehended. The lethality of the flame's aura was formidable for the snakes created by the spirits and wandering ghosts. Under the corpse vanishing flame's energy attack, the spirits and ghosts became hazy, as if their minds were occupied by some unknown, evil forces. They all were controlled and made to halt in the void dully, as if they had been attacked by the body-fixing technique. They no longer released the soul energy attacks. The earth flame burned all the frozen souls. Under its scorching temperature, those spirits and ghosts didn't resist. They were melted while screaming, but no sounds were heard. All spirits and ghosts were afraid of the burning heat like the earth flame's power, which was their nemesis. Shortly, the spirits' force was damaged badly, and their soul energy weakened drastically. Although all of them were heaven flames, the blue in-spirit ghost flame was afraid of high temperature. It was struggling under the burning power of the earth flame, thus couldn't increase the power to control those souls. Shortly, Shurian's pressure was lifted, and his trembling god soul was calmed down for a moment. "You have more than one heaven flames," the Dark Clan's creature shouted. It was both excited and nervous. "Good. Excellent. I'm gonna strike jackpot this time. After taking in those heaven flames, I can condense a body to swagger even in the foreign land." The three-tiered sacrificial altar of the Dark Clan suddenly shook. Energy leaves fell from the altar, creating a leaf sea that snatched over Shurian. Each leaf had the power seal of the Dark Clan. Shurian could see the lines on the surface of those leaves. The powers that the sage of the Dark Clan had comprehended were urged, making his three-tiered sacrificial altar supernaturally dangerous. When the leaf sea covered Shurian, the power Upanishads in his altar became so chaotic that he couldn't mobilize the power to even defend. All forces in his body started to disorder. Inside the energy storm, Shurian had to gather his energy in every second to create the defense to keep himself safe from the attack of the energy storm. At this moment, as the powers of his body were all chaotic, he didn't have any effective method to resist the invasion of the energy storm. The energy armors around his body scattered. His body was exposed in the center of the energy storm. The tremendous devouring force surged furiously, entering his body and destroying his blood and flesh. Shurian's petrification martial spirit had been activated for a long time. At that moment, his flesh and blood turned golden. Bones of his entire body echoed cracking sounds while energy seethed furiously in every muscle fiber of his. Under the skin-tearing power of the energy storm, Shurian felt pain as if countless worms were nibbling his body. Pain engulfed both his body and mind. However, even if he didn't have the energy protection, the bursting energy in his body could be considered supernatural. So, even though he felt an intense pain, his body stayed unharmed, maintaining a stone-rigid, fleshy defense. People always tended to underestimate his soul and robust body. This body had experienced thousands of times of quenching with the petrification martial spirit and the immortal martial spirit. After taking in the golden marrow, he was much more durable than the other warriors in the same realm. He was much beyond people's imagination. Although he didn't have the energy armors anymore, he was still safe. And his body seemed to be enduring another time of forging and polishing in the terrifying cutting power of the energy storm, as numerous light spots sparked from him. It was like his body was under the process of being forged by so many hammers, which made it stronger and more vigorous. Shurian had a large amount of energy stored in his bones, internal organs, and tendons. After this struggling battle, many containers were broken, making energy overflow into his blood and flesh. His body became almost unbreakable. Gradually, Shurian's body seemed to adapt to the energy storm, as he didn't need to increase the energy to protect his body. He suspended in the storm while many beams of broken light were moving around him. He now looked like an illuminating object emitting a dazzling light. God body! How could it be? The creature of the Dark Clan had its soul tremble, as if someone had punched it. He felt a little bit distressed. To warriors who reached the king-god realm, at the moment they broke through, they would take in a formidable amount of heaven and earth energy to refine their bodies one more time. After that process, they would have a god body that could move freely in the outer space and be immune to most of the chaotic powers of the place. The reason why Zenith of the Ghostmark clan and this creature of the Dark Clan didn't dare to escape the Grace mainland was that they hadn't obtained the god body, so they had to be afraid of the energy in outer space. Only condensing the body successfully would help them escape the Grace mainland safely. Ian's spirit wanted to take the heaven flame to use its power to quench his body. After that, he could enter the galaxy easily. Seeing Shurian expose his body without any energy to protect it, yet not being afraid of the energy storm, the Dark Clan's creature gawked, screaming instinctively. Normally, even the true God Realm warriors would have their bodies worn out in the energy storm of outer space, being scattered in this foreign land. He thought that if he could smash the protection around Shurian's body, Shurian would be crushed shortly. At that moment, his god soul and sacrificial altar would be exposed, which would make it easy to kill him. He clearly had a wrong assumption about Shi Yan's tenacious body. In the energy storm, Shi Yan adapted quickly. Without using any bit of his energy, his body sparked in the area, as he was safe and sound in the energy storm. As he didn't need to pay attention to protecting his body, Shi Yan was freed all of a sudden. He grinned, sending his soul fluctuation. Thank you. Without you, I would never know my body had been that tenacious. I'm free now, so we can play well, buddy. Shi Yan touched his chest. Starlight bloomed like a shower of meteorites from the sky. It condensed into many beams, darting towards the three-tiered altar of the Dark Clan's creature. At the same time, Shi Yan released the Death Intent Domain, condensing the Death and Life Seal and the Intent Domain that could destroy all creatures, covering the three-tiered altar. The creature on the altar felt annoyed, as if he had swallowed many flies. He got the feeling of spending too much for gaining nothing. Under Shi Yan's wave of attacks, he had to use the power Upanishads that he hadn't comprehended thoroughly yet. He used the soul energy to condense many dark god spears, underworld hand seals, the surging dark sea, etc. His soul energy was drained quickly, making his three-tiered altar shrink. This was the sign of significant loss of his soul energy. Different from Shi Yan, this creature didn't have a body, so it didn't have any energy from the body to use. While countering its opponent, it had to use the soul energy which had been accumulated over so many years. He initially wanted to use the flame to refine his body, but he couldn't use it today. Also, it revealed his biggest weakness, not having a body. Come here. Come here. Come here, please. Shi Yan let out a crazy laughter as he was urging all powers in his body. He hovered firmly in the energy storm, releasing the power of stars, death, and life to neutralize the energy that the other had condensed using his soul. Well, you want my heaven flames, right? I'm here, waiting for you. Shi Yan's soul energy became stronger. You want my heaven flames? I also want yours. Well, I want to see who will absorb whom. Chapter 703, Devouring Original Essence. Chapter 703, Devouring Original Essence. The creature of the Dark Clan was struggling hard under Shi Yan's counterattack. It wanted to dodge, but the other power Upanishads had distracted it. As a result, it couldn't react timely. The 9 Serenity's soul-devouring flame, the ice-cold flame, the earth flame, and the corpse vanishing flame had burned up so many flames of the Een spirit ghost flame, along with the Een spirits and the ghosts it had released. This prevented Een spirit from using the power of the heaven flame. He could only consume his soul energy to face Shi Yan's fierce wave of attacks. Space-cutting blades. Shi Yan shouted, urging space power. He touched his forehead, and the power of space in the altar was shot out, combining with the power of his body. Space Upanishad seemed to control his essence chi, giving it a marvelous resonance with the Space Upanishad. A giant blade appeared above the soul altar of that Dark Clan's creature. Crack! The space-cutting blade slashed down, dividing the altar into 2 parts. It also had the soul of the Dark Clan's creature. He tried his best to gather his soul and recover the sacrificial altar with all his efforts. But the soul-gathering pearl seized the chance and dashed forward, trying to snatch its soul. Unfortunately, it was unknown why the soul-gathering pearl couldn't affect the god soul of that creature. It just couldn't devour the god soul. Shi Yan didn't know that the soul-gathering pearl was the beast crystal of the soul-devouring beast, which was just a level 9 beast. At most, it could only swallow the souls of creatures at the same level. In other words, the bead could only take the souls of creatures at true god realm. If it were beyond this level, the soul-gathering pearl couldn't do anything. That creature's soul seemed to have reached the king god realm. Thus, only the soul-gathering pearl of a level 10 soul-devouring beast could capture it. Shi Yan wasn't hurried even though he saw that the bead was ineffective. He increased space power to create a bigger space-cutting blade. Then, he slashed the creature's soul many times to prevent him from gathering his soul again. Shortly, a surging, furious wave overflowed from his glabella. A special mark glowed on his forehead, releasing a strange energy fluctuation. That fluctuation released waves of a lively mark, which disappeared from his forehead and reappeared on the altar of the inner world 5 devils and his immortal demon blood. Boom! Yan's sea of consciousness was shaken rumblingly. At that moment, his consciousness was blurry. His soul sacrificial altar flew out from his sea of consciousness, halting in front of him. He was startled. This terrifying event frightened him as he noticed a mark inside the altar, which was releasing strong vibrations, as if it were trying to create something. It seemed to be an extremely intimidating power Upanishad. The mark on his forehead had disappeared and reappeared on the altar, changing it continually. The foundation of this altar, which had been generated from his soul consciousness and the energy the inner world 5 devils had absorbed from the ruins of the 7 Demogorgon statues, was being reconstructed magically. In just a blink, the connection between Yan and the 5 devils was cut off. The 5 devils seemed to be smashed down and congregated into the mark. This mark was having a terrific transformation. It twisted, creating a black hole that was diffusing a destructive, extremely evil aura. Swoosh! The soul-gathering pearl flew out, falling into that black hole. Inside the black hole, Yan could see the eccentric energy moving, which terrified him, making him uneasy while watching this transformation. Vaguely, he found that he had some connection with the black hole, as he could use the god soul to control it. However, when he tried to do that, he figured out that he couldn't. Shortly, the soul-gathering pearl was smashed. The beast crystal of the bizarre soul-devouring beast turned into numerous light spots, disappearing into the black hole. The black hole twisted, releasing an evil and strange, massive suction force. At that moment, all energies in the center of the energy storm were affected. Countless spirits and wandering ghosts were drawn from the dim halo, disappearing into the black hole. Even the altar that the Dark Clan's creature had spent so many years to build was affected. No matter how hard it tried, it couldn't get rid of the suction force, being drawn into the black hole. After several breaths, the Dark Clan's creature and the soul sacrificial were sucked up, including numerous spirits and ghosts. Nothing remained. As the intense blue flame was bound tightly by the 9 serenity's soul-devouring flame, the earth flame, the ice-cold flame, it couldn't move, floating in front of Yan. The Dark Clan's creature had tried everything it could use to take Yan's heaven flames. However, it ended up being dragged into the black hole, which had melted the inner world 5 devils and the soul-gathering pearl. This black hole was created by the power from the mark. Yan was petrified. He didn't know what was happening. He only knew that his enemy had disappeared completely. Yan was dumbstruck, looking at the black hole there. He vaguely sensed that the black hole also had many massive revolving vortexes, just like in his acupuncture points, to refine some energy. Yan knew that the energy the black hole was refining came from the creature of the Dark Clan. The black hole hovered in front of him and then disappeared, reappearing in his sea of consciousness, staying where the soul sacrificial altar used to be. A magical power Upanishad was slowly generated from that black hole. Yan used his god soul to sense, then changed his visage. That power Upanishad was called Devouring Original Essence. It could devour all kinds of energies. It was also the evilest, cruelest seal of Upanishad, whose nature was to destroy, demolish, and break any balance. This power Upanishad was the nature of the black hole, the core of the black hole, which was generated by the combination of the inner world 5 devils, the soul-gathering pearl, and the mark on his forehead. It was linked to Yan's soul directly. Yan was struck hard. He tried to calm down to perceive the essence of that power Upanishad. He sent his soul to the black hole, watching countless revolving vortexes as he was witnessing the derivative of the most eccentric, evilest power in the universe. Yan's mind and god soul were clear as he was taking in the knowledge and comprehensions of this new power. He wanted to get a good grasp of its essence and how energy was mobilized while using this power. Losing its master, the spirit ghost flame calmed down and didn't have any reaction. The 9 serenities soul-devouring flame, the ice-cold flame, the earth flame, and the corpse-vanishing flame became the most talented and persuasive speakers as they were releasing their soul fluctuation to communicate with the Een spirit ghost flame. The immense blue flame didn't send out any energy fluctuation, as if it were listening to the other flames. After a while, the Een spirit ghost flame seemed to be convinced. It turned into the original form, getting into Shi Yan's head through his eyes, together with the 9 serenities soul-devouring flame, the ice-cold flame, the earth flame, and the corpse-vanishing flame. The Een spirit ghost flame then stayed together with the other 4 heaven flames on the heaven flame altar. It shone calmly, slowly fusing with the heaven flame altar. It then rooted, considering the heaven flame its new base to thrive. The Een spirit ghost flame really liked its new situation. When it was forced to fuse with that creature of the Dark Clan, its liberty was snatched. The flame had to stay in the other's soul under the other's control. This wasn't fair at all. The flame's will, power, and soul were taken, so it had no means to resist or rebel. Whenever that creature of the Dark Clan fought with the others, he always used the flame's power first. The flame was enslaved, letting its master take in all it had. Of course, the flame didn't like it. It used to plan for an escape. However, once it was fused, the flame's soul and consciousness were confined. After several attempts, it got hurt badly and hadn't restored fully yet. The offer it had at this moment was totally different. Staying in Shi Yan's soul sacrificial altar meant it was equal to Shi Yan. Also, it could take Shi Yan's blood, soul energy, and soul consciousness to nurture itself. And it could thrive to evolve later on. Only when Shi Yan was in danger would he use the flame's power. Anyway, Shi Yan wouldn't use all of its power to resist the enemies. It would only happen in some particular cases. Only when Shi Yan needed it the most would he use the flame's power. This was a win-win solution, which benefited both sides. It wasn't like the previous time when it was in a passive situation, constantly consuming energy alone. Of course, the current situation was what the flame wanted. Thus, under the enticement of the other 4 heaven flames, the unowned Een spirit ghost flame had proactively fused with Shi Yan's heaven flame altar, which would be its new home. The flame felt contented and secure. Shi Yan was surprised that the 4 heaven flames had tried to draw more support for him. He didn't need to persuade the new flame, and everything went smoothly. The Een spirit ghost flame had become a new power in his heaven flame altar. Shi Yan was delighted with this result, thinking that it was worth his good treats for the 4 heaven flames. It was easier if the 4 heaven flames helped him to convince their kind. The heaven flames calmed down, but their altar had expanded. Energy moving inside it was obviously more vigorous, which benefited him a lot. His god soul seemed to sublimate, becoming denser and cleaner, with a new power. However, the black hole was still refining energy next to the heaven flame altar. Countless vortexes were still revolving crazily with the mysteries of the devouring original essence. This made him both scared and happy. Gradually, a magical wave of energy started to diffuse from the center of the vortexes in the black hole. Those waves had accelerated the devouring speed of the black hole, then overflowed to Shi Yan's Sea of Consciousness, the Altar of Heaven Flames, and the Altar of Seals of Upanishad. His Sea of Consciousness expanded continually. Flows of soul consciousness under that energy's urge had generated more pure flows, which increased the area of the Sea of Consciousness. Shi Yan now had more soul consciousness to use. The 5 heaven flames were dancing with the support of that energy, as if they were boosted. Each of them looked delighted and excited. The altar of the seal of Upanishad created when Shi Yan had broken through the true God realm also gained benefits. The 3 powers were purified, making Shi Yan understand them to a whole new level. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.